that IEBC claims will require to run the general elections successfully. 4.4 billion shillings is what the presidential candidates can and are allowed to spend for the campaigns, or rather during the campaigns. And as far as the political parties are concerned, 17.7 billion shillings is the maximum the political party can spend. Now, 123 million shillings is the largest amount that is going to be spent in Turkana, which happens to be the most expensive county in as far as the general election is concerned. Now, in the event that there's a breach, in the electoral rules, at 2 million shillings and a jail term not exceeding 5 years is what those found culpable of breach of, the election rules are going to incur or suffer. So is Kenya ready for the next general election? There's been a lot of conversation, with even a petition in court to actually delay this exercise by a cool 4 months, saying that the current date, proposed date, that is August 9th, 2022, is 4 months shy or into Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure. So we'll be keeping tabs on that from the corridors of justice, as well as looking at how far we have come since we enacted the Constitution in 2020. In 2010. Now it's 2022 that we're looking at, but what strides have been made in as far as the justice system is concerned? Remember, there's been a lot of talk when it comes to the appointment of judges and magistrates, the changes within the office of the Chief Justice and such, and what this means in as far as our judicial system is concerned. So we'll be keeping tabs on that, but that is what has been given the focus on the front page of the Standard this morning, as well as just talking about matters of the controversy surrounding the controversial businessman there, Aidin, and it is said that he was deported yesterday, and this is according to his legal team there, led by Ahmed Nasir. They're saying that those were mysterious circumstances. They're keeping tabs on that, and we're going to be following up on that. So if you haven't gotten online, well, remember that we are live, and we'd want you to be with us. You can give us your feedback in regard to these stories that we are highlighting, as well as others that you need covered. Remember, you can reach us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 News, and our website is www.kbc.co.ke. Jane?
Right, let's get to have a quick look at what the Daily Nation has for us this morning. It is quite the busy front page today. So many stories have been featured there on the front page, but just to run you through some of these stories, two of which you have already mentioned, Regina. Number one, in regards to election spending, should Chebukati enforce the limits on campaign spending? The depth of candidate pockets may not matter in this forthcoming general elections. That story has been covered on two whole pages. We'll be getting to the details in a bit. Coming to the other main story in regards to how Ruto man was kicked out at night. It is said that he is an established investor, though his companies still remain a mystery. He was spirited out of the country under unclear circumstances at around 5 a.m. yesterday, and so many questions are abound. Again, yesterday during Ion Politics, we did mention to you that Kalonzo Musyoka was set to launch the Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka Command Center in Karen, and true to that, he did. Of course, here pictured in the company of Musalia Mudavadi, ANC chair. We also have KANU Executive Director George Wainaina, as well as Kaminini MP Chris Wamalwa, who have been pictured here with him during the launch of this particular command center. And finally, MPs probe schools charging illegal fees. This is a concern that has been on the papers for the better part of the past couple of weeks. Parents complaining that there's so many added charges that were not included in the admission letters when they were being when they received these admission letters from the schools. So now MPs have launched an investigation alongside lawmakers to try and understand what is the foundation of these charges that are being leveled against parents in some schools. That is the front page of the Daily Nation for you today. Doreen.
Now, if you remember the controversial billionaire that is Kamlesh Patni, he had relocated to Zimbabwe. He now makes a quiet return to the country. What does this mean? Why had he relocated? Why is he coming back to the country? This story, well cut up this morning from page 6 through 8 of the PD. So I'll be telling you, giving you the details rather of this controversial billionaire that is Kamlesh Patni. Also, matters to do with election dominating the paper this morning. At the main header, 4.4 billion cap to run 2022 presidency, where the IEBC chair gives notice and publishes the contributions and spending limits. Ray has well mentioned that a candidate or political party may receive and spend during the expenditure period. Now, even as we talk about those elections, poll day is August 9th, 2022. That is what the IEBC says, which has also been well cut out in the constitution. But we cannot forget the individuals or persons who've been coming out to just give various reasons for wanting to push the election further. Key among them also who was featured yesterday in the papers as a critical person when it comes to 2022 general elections. That is Naragwa MP Jeremiah Kioni, who has really been on the forefront pushing for the postponement of that election. So I'll also be telling you why he has really been on the forefront pushing for the postponement of next year's general elections, and perhaps why IEBC is taking a key stand to ensure that actually those elections take part on the day that they're slated to as per the constitution. Also, Uhuru to meet former NASA team. Yes, so what does this mean for the three former NASA principals? That is Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi, as well as Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka. Details of that coming in a short while. And again, as yesterday marked the first day for matatus to begin carrying full capacity, looks like they're really not following the laid protocols or procedures that were given for the PSVs. Key among them the crew, which is inclusive of the driver as well as the two touts, need to be wearing fully fledged masks, as well as proper sanitizing, and also after every trip announcing to the people there that they really need to ensure that they wear their masks properly. So just according to this paper this morning, a spot check was done, and that has not been happening. So what does this mean, given the fact that the numbers of COVID-19 continue to spike day in, day out? I'll be giving you those details in just a short while, and that's how the front page of People's Daily looks like this morning.
Now we're about to get into the details there in regard to the stories making headlines. Now, it is clear that the scribes this morning have been reading from the same scripts, and I want to pick up from where you've left, Doreen, in regard to the exit of Aydin. This brings back the conversation around the Sagresian brothers. Remember those years back, it was a controversy, and until it became none. We've never been told what they were doing in the country, under the circumstances under which they left, and the ripple effect, or rather, the consequences of them being in the country. So here is the makings of another. Confirming this particular issue was the lawyer, that is Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, who claimed that the Turkish national Harun Aydin was deported yesterday, and they will be seeking legal redress and other legal avenues to bring him back, asserting that the businessman had a legal working permit that expires in 2023. So Rafina Robi has the details of that particular story.
All right. We will be getting to some of those stories in a bit, but let me just take you through one of the stories here on the Daily Nation. We start with this particular story that was on the front page in regards to our schools, or rather some schools that have been found to be charging extra fees. And the weird part is that these extra charges are not being remitted into the school's legal accounts, but rather through other transactions. We have they have gone ahead to mention M-Pesa and other accounts that have not been identified with that particular school. And now members of Parliament Parliament. They're set to have a meeting next week with Education CS Magoha to discuss these charges that many head teachers are springing on parents every other time when schools open. And this is something that has been happening for quite some time now. They have noted that they're going to look into this M-Pesa transaction and other accounts that have not been formally registered, because as per the Ministry of Education, they only have one place, and that is the Ministry of Education, where instructions on school fees come from. So all these other added charges are not legal to some extent, but then again, they are looking, or they're set to have a meeting with CS in the coming week to look into some of these allegations that so many parents have raised in regards to school fees. Doreen.
Okay, let's come to that story concerning the Matatu sector, or better the PSVs. Like I mentioned earlier, yesterday marked the day one for them to be fully allowed to carry to full capacity. And yes, we had talked about this yesterday concerning the different concerns that perhaps Kenyans had, or perhaps what did this mean, given the fact that COVID-19 numbers are continuing to spike, as I had mentioned. But just after that government decisions to allow PSVs to carry full capacity, it appears to have caught the Matatu sector flat-footed, as most of them are yet to comply with those COVID-19 protocols. The spot check done yesterday revealed that most PSVs operating within CBD were not observing those laid down regulations. For instance, most matatus did not have sanitizers, which was key among the regulations that they were supposed to follow as they began carrying to full capacity as of yesterday. So that they didn't have sanitizers. Others didn't have thermal guns to test temperatures for passengers as they come into the vehicles. The crews were not wearing the 3-ply masks as it had been agreed between the government as well as the Matatu Welfare Association, because that was the agreement that was supposed to have taken place. But still, Mike Maina, who's a driver that plies Jogoo Road with a certain circle, said that they are yet to be equipped with this COVID-19 prevention kits. So one of the major reasons to why a good number of these public service vehicles are not adhering to the laid protocols that they were supposed to adhere is because they have not been furnished with these kits, like the ply masks, the sanitizers, the thermal guns, because clearly just amongst themselves they can't quite get it. So when you look at just Obera still going by this particular article, because this is just one of the drivers, and this is actually a concern of a good number of them as to why they're not adhering to this protocol. So what does this mean for you and I as a Kenyan? And again, that's the part where we keep saying, do your bit. Ensure that you take all the necessary measures, because that protection is just with you. It's you to protect yourself as a Kenyan. So that's Kenyan. So that's the latest when it comes to how public service vehicles have been doing since they have been allowed to carry to full capacity. Ray.
Now, there's a question that we were asking yesterday. When they say full capacity, exactly what does full capacity entail, and what are the new regulations around the PSV at a time when we're still battling COVID with a positivity rate of 12%? So yesterday, we saw the security apparatus in various bus terminals as well as various routes just doing a spot check to just look at what was happening on ground. But my question would be, Doreen, as a passenger seated in that particular PSV, have you donned your mask properly? Have you sanitized? And has the sanitizer been provided for you as you board? Because these days, people just board the matatus. Yeah. We do not even have the temperature checks anymore. So when you talk about creating a safe environment for doing business, and that's the reason why we feel now we have brought back the PSVs to operate in full capacity, because we did not let the trains still continue doing full capacity, as well as the airplanes flying in and out of various destinations. The question is, what are we doing? Because if you go to the SGR terminal just here, you'll see your temperature gets checked. You have water point where you sanitize and wash your hands, also at the airport. But we are not seeing these checks and balances put in place at bus terminals, leave alone when they're picking and dropping passengers in places that are not designated bus stops and such. So are we just courting danger? I think now this boils down to individual responsibility. As an individual, what are you doing to keep yourself safe? Because other than just going about your duties, remember, your health is the most important component of your life, because if you're not healthy, you'll not be able to work, and if you can't work, then you can't provide for yourself or your loved ones. It begins with your health, and we're in a situation that is not so unique for Kenya. It's a global situation that we're dealing with. Other countries are planning to open up because they have already garnered the herd immunity, the vaccination is ongoing, and also they have adhered to the laid down protocols. We are very, very lucky as Kenya, if I can say, looking at the business perspective, in as much as we have seen a downsizing of some businesses since COVID struck 1 year on, plus we did not experience what other countries, especially in Europe and the Asian world, has been experiencing, given the huge numbers and the issues of lockdown. So imagine now we are counting down 364 days to the next election. We are at a positivity rate of 12%. The data that was received yesterday and released by the Ministry of Health indicates that 30 persons have succumbed to this particular virus. And here you are, you're seated, you've not masked properly, you've not sanitized. You need to do something for yourself. Jane?
Citizen responsibility. Most of the time, we are always quick to look at what the other party is not doing. What is the matatu driver not doing? What is the conductor not doing? What is the transport system as a whole not doing? But what are we as individuals failing to do that we are not recognizing? And especially amid this pandemic. So Ray, you have rightfully put it. It starts with you and I. As ukiingia kwa hiyo matatu, tumefundishwa kuvaa mask. And it's for our own benefit. You know, that's what I don't really get sometimes. You know, unaambiwa uvae mask ndio usipate COVID. Sio neighbor asipate, ndio wewe usipate. So again, it boggles my mind that we can compromise our own health because we don't want to put on a mask or wash our hands at every available opportunity that we can get, or social distance. So again, it's a wait and see situation. That's the sad part. You just need to wait and watch the masses to see how this will play out, whether it will be a good decision in the long run, or we'll have to go back to the drawing table and just recalculate some of these next steps moving forward.
And even as talk about it's a wait and see kind of situation, and this is perhaps for the longest time the government was not actually allowing PSVs to carry to full capacity, because like Ray is saying, when you go to the railway stations, when you go to the airport, actually these things are there. Sanitizers are there. They ensure they properly sanitize the places as people alight. But when you come to matatus, that's not the case. That's why we keep saying right now where we've reached, it's actually a personal responsibility. So you just make sure you do the right thing for your own good and for your own benefit. As we move forward, Wamboi.
Yes. Let's now come to, I think, Ray, you had touched on this story concerning IEBC's Gazette notice yesterday when it comes to spending. It was on the front page of the Standard.
Yes.
But let me just give you some details as it has been captured here on this particular daily. Easy page mbili zimependana sana. Zinakata, there we go. So the 2022 polls come at a very heavy price. And this is something that we have been seeing as a country. Every election becomes more expensive than the previous one. And this year, Treasury allocated 26.34 billion to IEBC for next year's general election. But as per IEBC Chair Chebukati, he said this is way short than what they need. The budget that they need currently stands at 40.9 billion, which is short some 14.57 billion in order to help them properly conduct the general elections come next year. In the event that Treasury does not relook at this budget that they did allocate to them, Chebukati said that they would have to they would have to cut down on some critical expenditures like wages and mass voter registration, which may be shortened from the current 30 days to 15 days due to financial constraints. In the last elections, there was some 19.6 million voters that were registered, and an additional 9 million are projected to be registered in the mass registration that will be happening before we get to the general elections. Now, general elections are an expensive affair, and IEBC tried to justify this 40.9 billion budget, citing that one of the things that actually take a big chunk of this money are the ballot papers, given they have 9 security features that they need to meet in order to qualify for the poll integrity requirements, which is something they have to fulfill before the general elections. And also yesterday, Chebukati did publish a gazette notice imposing contribution and spending ceilings for candidates as well as the counties across the country. Now, this particular notice prescribes a fine not exceeding 2 million or a 5-year jail term or both should members violate these limits. What are these limits, you ask? Well, when it comes to expenditure for political parties, it has been limited to 17.7 billion Kenya shillings, which caps items including transportation, advertising, media, as well as election agents, just to mention but a few. They go on to give the other financial limits for each and every county, with Turkana having one of the highest spending limits, which has been capped at 123 million Kenya shillings. We also have Nairobi County, which comes in second with 117 million Kenya shillings per square kilometer. All right, which covers a population of about 695 people in Nairobi. So these are just the limits that have been put by IEBC when it comes to how members are expected to spend. Because, you know, Ray, we were just having this conversation, was it early in the morning or yesterday? When we get close to this election time, money is moving left, right, and center all over the place, and so much money goes into the election with members campaigning, all aspirants campaigning, and now IEBC says we need to maintain this limit, just make sure that even the country is not shaken financially.
Well, we'll be getting into the details of that. Remember, the IEBC has said that it will require a cool 40 billion shillings to run a free and fair election. We take a breather. We'll be right back.
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca.
She told me the truth. That's why I'm here. I want to see my parents.
But don't you think it's time that we call a doctor?
Take her to your apartment in secret and let us know, so that the two of us can have a word with her. And we can erase her from the face of the earth.
And Ceci has thrown me out. And I'm very sure that she's plotting against you with Ulysses Artiaga. Because until now, she's still bent on separating Ivan from Mariana.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mr. Horacio Espinosa.
No, what?
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
夜风般吹散沉香，江南气烟上。
You have no right to beg for mercy for her.
I'm willing to take her punishment. Please forgive her.
Please help me to check his real identity and confirm he is your son.
It's a trap.
You see? Promise. I will get revenge.
夜夜风淡吹散沉香，江南起烟上，抓一味当归入药汤。
Bado sisi wenye nyumba tutoke kwa hii nyumba muingie nyinyi, alafu mtaishi amstarehe mfurahishane. Una kazi ya kufanya wewe?
Yaani wewe unajiingilia mahali tu unajiingilia tu. Yaani ningekushinda kupiga mapanga ingekuwaje?
Kina nani ni wapenzi? Wewe na Safari. Sasa tumfuta yupi?
Bado una vita na mimi sio?
Hapana. Wewe hasa una matatizo gani mwanamke wewe?
Kwa nini shemeji?
Na akijua kwamba hii penalty haiko panda na nyumba, hautafurahikia.
Good morning once again. You're watching KBC Channel 1, and picking up from where we left on, it's exactly 364 days towards the next general election. The question has been, is Kenya going to be ready in time? Now, talking about finances and the electoral body that is charged with conducting a free and fair election. Now, they gazetted the rules and regulations as well as the guidelines ahead of this general elections. And just to pick up from where we left with Jane there, the issue of, does it have the requisite monies or rather funds to run a free and fair election? Now, a report here prepared by John Jacob Courier, just helping us understand the spending limits that have been given by IEBC, indicate that presidential candidates in the next year's general election will only be allowed to spend approximately 4.5 billion shillings for their campaigns. Now, candidates vying for governorship, senator and women representative in Turkana, Nairobi and Marsabit will be the highest spenders, using more than 100 million shillings, while Lamu ranks last in terms of spending for candidates seeking the same positions and be expected to spend approximately 22 million shillings. Here's a detailed report on the caps that have been put in place in regard to financing, as prepared by John Jacob Courier.
Malpractices in the country during next year's general election, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has released campaign financing and spending limits for all elective seats in the country. Those who wish to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta will spend a maximum of 4.4 billion shillings in the next election, IEBC says will be held on the 9th of August next year. Those seeking governorship, senator and woman rep positions in Turkana will be the highest spenders at 123 million shillings, while those seeking for the same positions in Nairobi will spend 117 million shillings. In Marsabit, those seeking the same positions will spend 114 million shillings, closing the list of the top 3 spenders. Lamu candidates for governorship, senator and woman rep positions will spend the list using approximately 22 million shillings. In the constituency level, the positions will spend between 11 million to 94 million shillings in Tetu and North Hor constituencies, respectively. Because of the vastness of the wards, North Hor ward in Marsabit will have candidates in the race spend 20 million, making them the highest spenders, followed by Chorab ward in Isiolo and Wayu ward in Tana River. Considering the costs of hiring venues, printing campaign material, nomination fees, transport, communication and other costs, political parties have a leeway of spending approximately 17.7 billion shillings. A closer look at the spending in the 2017 general election against the spending caps put by IEBC. The million-dollar question is whether the political actors will adhere to the spending limits.
Turi has called on the electoral body to stop wasting time on non-issues and prepare for free, fair elections. He said that in the event that the IEBC feels that the allocated monies in the budgetary allocation, that is the year 2021-2022, are not enough to conduct a free and fair election, in his own words, that they need to write. It would only require that the members of the Budget Appropriations Committee to sit and have a supplementary budget, and funds will be made available. Now, still talking about election preparedness and just looking at what requirements need to be made. Now, public servants seeking elective office have 6 months to resign ahead of the August 2022 general elections. The directive follows a 2017 court ruling that removed the provision that public officers remain in office while contesting in the elections. While enumerating the countdown to the forthcoming polls, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chairperson Wafula Chebukati said the commission will be forced to scale down its operations due to lack of funds.
Public servants seeking elective posts must resign in February next year as the countdown to the August polls officially kicks off. The enforcement follows a 2017 ruling by the Court of Appeal in Nyeri that did away with the stipulation that public officers could stay in office while contesting in a general election.
Let them resign and go, and let other Kenyans take those positions.
With exactly a year to the August 9th general election, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chairperson Wafula Chebukati exuded confidence on delivering a credible election, dismissing calls for a referendum.
We are not preparing, and we have not commenced any preparations for referendum, BBI. So the Commission is doing nothing about the BBI, but we all wait for the outcome of the Court of Appeal decision.
Chebukati, however, lamented that the Commission is short of 14 billion shillings, forcing them to scale down operations.
This amount we're asking for is actually the bare minimum, and we're urging the National Treasury to provide sufficient funds so that the activities of the Commission in managing the elections are not disrupted.
IEBC is collaborating with security agencies to curb electoral malpractices, even as they strive to penalize 71 cases filed in the previous elections. Director of Public Prosecution Nuruddin Haji called for a review of the Election Offences Act to expedite dispensation of justice.
If more emphasis is also placed on the criminal aspect of election offences, then you will probably see the incidences reduced.
Stakeholders from the Kenya Media Sector Working Group, led by Editors Guild Chairperson Churchill Otieno, are rooting for the civic empowerment of media practitioners ahead of the elections.
IEBC is at the National Treasury has allocated the body 26 billion shillings, leaving a deficit of 14.9 billion shillings. Now, moving away from matters of elections and looking at matters of development, is that Kenya will continue to champion environmental friendly and sustainable exploitation of the blue economy. President Uhuru Kenyatta said failure to exploit water resources responsibly will cause more conflicts along the global coastlines. President Kenyatta told a high-level meeting on enhancing maritime security that strengthening the international legal regime and institutions will help forestall these challenges.
World waters have become the new flashpoints for major global powers. From the South China Sea to the Strait of Hormuz, world waters are becoming the new battlefronts. The world depends on the maritime domain for food security, navigation for international trade, tourism and ecological heritage, among other essential aspects. Speaking at a high-level meeting on enhancing maritime security, President Uhuru Kenyatta stated that piracy, narcotics, trafficking, arms smuggling and other transnational threats all thrive in maritime space, undercutting government authority and investor confidence.
The maritime domain is inadvertently a field prone to insecurity that affects coastal nations and entire region stability. piracy, narcotic trafficking, arms smuggling, and other transnational threats all thrive in the maritime space, undercutting government authority and investor confidence.
The head of state stated that piracy remains a threat to shipping in the Straits of Malacca, the Red Sea, and the Gulf of Aden, where criminal networks are active in piracy, illicit trafficking of persons, firearms, narcotics, and illegal fishing.
We are, however, alive to the threats in the rim, which deserve much more multinational cooperation and multinational attention if we hope to sustain the economic progress achieved so far.
President Kenyatta has said unless addressed with nuance, these issues will continue to undermine the security of the coastal states and the maritime domain.
We need better coordinated existing maritime security strategies and mediation mechanisms. This we can by strengthening the international legal regime and institutions at the forefront of addressing maritime security.
The meeting has called for strengthened emphasis on observing international law and resisting the lure of promoting proxy rivalries in pursuit of narrow interests.
Geopolitical rivalries that manifest in insecurity of the maritime domain must be limited. Competition between established and rising powers leaves us all worse off. Instead, we need a strengthened emphasis on observing international law and resisting the lure of promoting proxy rivalries in pursuit of narrow interests.
President Kenyatta has further said rising sea levels and extreme weather conditions, courtesy of climate change, threatens the existence of some small island states and coastal populations, calling for successful global climate change adaptation and mitigation measures.
This development comes at a time when Kenya is still dealing with a maritime border dispute between Somalia and herself there. And you can check, we carried this story actually, you can find it on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, where, you know, Kenya is pitted against its neighbor Somalia there over some lucrative piece of land offshore and onshore. And remember, Kenya also has been making strides when it comes to matters of oil and gas, and this particular area, or rather land area, let's say mass, because it's also offshore and onshore, it's already been termed as a lucrative, or rather with having an area that has a lot of deposits when it comes to oil and gas. So it's quite the region, or rather quite an area, quite a mass that both Kenya and Somalia are in dispute over. Remember, this was happening just beginning of the year, and now with that particular stand by President Uhuru Kenyatta, matters of the blue economy go beyond matters of fisheries there. Now, coming back to matters of politics, is that Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka says he will install a service-driven economy if he becomes president in 2022. Now, speaking during the launch of his command center in Karen, Nairobi, the former vice president outlined the pillars of his manifesto, which include economic recovery, agriculture, tourism, and war on graft.
The Kalonzo Musyoka-led Wiper Democratic Party has set up a command center in readiness for the 2022 presidential campaign.
Ladies and gentlemen, SKM Command Center,
to witness the launch, where Kalonzo Musyoka's allies in the One Kenya Alliance, Kalonzo Musyoka outlined key agenda his government will focus on should he clinch the top seat next year.
And my bid, ladies and gentlemen, will be grounded on the following pillars. Number 1, economic recovery and development. Number 2, the green gold, which is agriculture. Number 3, zero tolerance on corruption. And to demonstrate how serious we are, we have the anti-corruption czar in our midst today, our brother John Githongo, who has volunteered to give us all the inputs that we require, and so we can be able to lead from the front. Number 4, sustainable debt management. And number 5, youth and women empowerment.
Kalonzo rubbishing the bottom-up economic approach, the anchor to Deputy President William Ruto's march to the ballot.
Dear Kenyans, make no mistake. There are no quick fixes to our current economic dilemma. No instant coffee solutions. However, I want to assure you that fixing our economic meltdown is doable and is achievable. While doing this, what I hear Kenyans to be saying is that they want a government that protects them from harm, not one that hurts them. We cannot elect leaders who seek to exploit our fears for their own political survival. How else will one propose a meaningless economic model that doesn't reflect its life journey? We must properly diagnose what ails Kenya and develop blueprints that work.
ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi called on IEBC to ensure the 2022 general election is free and fair.
We will work together, and eventually, through God's grace, I'm sure the door shall be opened and Kenya shall rise again.
Well, now it is the season. What can we say with just 364 days to the next general elections? You're going to be hearing more of political, talk about, manifestos launched by various persons as well as parties. The question is, do you have the wisdom to debunk the truths from the myths? We have, as Wanjiko there, the issue of civic education is something that is very crucial. But have we, over the years, learned something from this particular cycle? From a business point of view, I picked on what Mr. Kalonzo there was saying regarding his pillars of his manifesto. He mentioned the issue of sustainable debt management. Currently, as we speak, Treasury is in a thick place, so to speak, with a target of, or rather, set to bridge a gap, or in the budget 2021-2022 of almost a trillion shillings. So where is it going to get its monies? And have we prioritized what is key in as far as post-economic recovery after COVID is concerned? Those are questions that can be answered. Remember, we continue to just dissect the finance bill and the repercussions therein, especially looking from an investor point of view, as well as Wanjiko, who at this time is already feeling the bite of high cost of living that has been fueled by, among other issues, the issue of the fuel prices which have been going up and since January to date, with a stagnation here and there, but still high cost of living. So let's cross over to matters business. A section of those in the agriculture sector are lobbying Parliament to carry out an impact assessment on banning in Kenya pesticides outlawed in other developed countries such as Europe. Led by Fresh Produce Consortium CEO Ojepat Osijere, the group argues that banning some of these pesticides would hurt Kenya's food safety efforts.
Last year, a petition filed by Uasin Gishu woman representative Gladys Bose-Sholei asked Parliament to order the ban on the use of 262 harmful pesticides in the Kenyan market, banned in the Europe, the United Kingdom and the US. The petition was adopted by a health committee who recommended, among others, that the Pest Control Products Board, PCPB, ensure that the chemicals banned in other jurisdictions are not in use in Kenya. On Monday, the Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya, the National Potato Council of Kenya and the Cereal Growers Association opposed the petition and called on the National Assembly to carry out an impact assessment of such a decision.
Those who are outside the agricultural space may not understand the crisis that looms in case the current proposal in Parliament of banning the 262 molecules takes effect. The plant protection products are essential to our agricultural food systems, particularly on food security and nutrition.
Okisegere says the proposal to ban the pesticides will lead to a maize production crisis, reduce tomato production by 80%, and drastically affect the harvest of coffee, potato, wheat, rice, onions, and most other crops.
Whatever we do, the processes must be very well guided by science and by the right policies.
They are calling for a review of the proposed ban of the pesticides.
So that particular conversation are going to be better answered because one of the proponents of such, or what we have been covering, is our guest here this morning, and will be helping us to just give us an opinion in regard to where we stand when it comes to food security. Remember, this is a pillar that has been identified by government under its Big Four agenda as one that is going to propel Kenya's economy to where it needs to be. So do keep it right here. Now, still keeping up with matters business and focused on agriculture, that sorghum farmers should embrace a new variety that is less appealing to the birds. Now, seed specialist at the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi and Arid Tropics says the new variety, known as EU S1, is also fast maturing, drought resistant and high yielding.
Most farmers in sorghum producing areas have given up on sorghum farming, cancelling contracts with millers and brewers as birds consume the crop before maturity.
Wakati huo tulifanya contract na Kenya Breweries na tulipanda aina ya mtama unaitwa Gadam, ule mweupe. Tuliendelea miaka miwili lakini tukawacha kwa sababu bei ilikuwa mbaya na huu mtama Gadam unapendwa na ndege.
The farmers are now being advised to take up cultivation of the new EU S1 sorghum variety that is less appealing to the birds and is fast maturing.
One special attribute about our sorghum is that it can be dual purpose. Like you can see, it is green, so it can still be fed to the animals and has high nutritive value. We have done, and we saw it has a lot of it has high nutritive value compared to the white one. The white one was actually mainly for East African breweries.
Angalia, utaona mahindi hapa iko green, lakini mtama ina withstand drought, so it's drought tolerant na early maturing.
The new variety developed by Egerton University has a potential to produce 3 tons per hectare as compared to the current popular Gadam variety that produces an average of 500 kilos.
The yield potential nationally is about 500 kg per hectare, but you see we are talking of up to 3 tons per hectare when we introduce this variety.
The International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, ICRISAT, is training farmers on seed production and proper sorghum husbandry to increase production.
Millers wanapenda mtama sana kwa sababu ndio wanauzia supermarkets unga ya uji. Kuna wakati nilipeleka mpaka Kajiado kwa sababu huko wanunua vizuri 60 per kilo.
Policymakers believe if sorghum production is increased, it will relieve pressure on maize and save the country the huge export bill.
Now that is matters business there. We want to cross over to the sporting arena, and remember you can get further details in regarding to what has been making headlines, including what is happening in the political scene as well as matters business. Now crossing over to the sporting arena is that Athletics Kenya has praised athletes who represented the country in the Tokyo Olympic Games. Now they say they put up a good show in Japan despite the challenges experienced in their preparations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Kenya finished 19th on the medal standings after bagging 10 medals, 4 gold, 4 silver and 2 bronze.
Despite a poor start in the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, Team Kenya would later redeem themselves in Japan, winning a total of 10 medals as the games came to a close on Sunday.
Ningependa niseme tumefurahia sana. Michezo yenyewe ilikuwa imeandalika vizuri sana, isipokuwa sababu ya hii COVID business kulikuwa na restrictions mingi, lakini sababu tulikuwa hata tumezoea hapa nyumbani tukajimudu nao mpaka tukawa washindi namna hiyo.
Emmanuel Korir secured Kenya's first gold in the 800 meters, with Faith Kipyegon securing the second gold in the 1500 meters race. Peres Jepchirchir and Eliud Kipchoge would then bag both gold medals in the marathons.
For me, nilikuwa nakimbia race yangu, sikuwa naona Sifan sana. Kila mtu alikuwa after Sifan, so kila mtu alikuwa utafanya nini huyu msichana. But for me, nilikuwa nakimbia race yangu, nilikuwa nimeprepare well. After Monaco, ile race nilikimbia Monaco. Nilikuwa nimekuwa na ile courage ya kwenda kudefend title yangu Tokyo.
The challenge actually was, maybe I can say it was strong. It was tough. The way you guys watched it in the TV, it was not easy. But at last, I mean, we came out with something.
Timothy Cheruiyot in the 1500 meters, Ferguson Rotich in the 800 meters, Helen Obiri 5000 meters, and Bridget Kosgei marathon bagged silver for Kenya.
The competition was tough because everyone was prepared to win it, and we really work hard to be in the podium.
Benjamin Kigen and Hyvin Kieng won 2 bronze medals for Kenya as they finished third in the men's and women's 3000 meters steeplechase races respectively.
Now just looking at her official Twitter handle there, Faith Kipyegon, she went on to say, "I'm so happy with my second Olympic gold. Well, kudos to our team that did us proud. That particular medal standing in as far as Africa is concerned, we topped the list. But as far as the medal standing for all countries that participated in the delayed Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, Kenya finished 19th. Now, still keeping up with Marta sports, despite representing the country for the first time in their 100 meters men's race in an Olympic competition, sprinter Ferdinand Omunyala became the first Kenyan to reach the semi-finals of the 100 meters while also setting a new national record of 10 seconds. Omanyala now believes he is getting a step closer to bagging Kenya's first gold medal.
It was the first time Kenya participated in the 100 meters in an Olympic event, with Ferdinand Omanyala leading pack alongside the former 100 meters record holder, Mark Otieno. However, Mark was disqualified for the race after failing a doping test, with Omanyala left to seek Kenya's first gold in the distance.
So when I was called, actually my name was the first on the list for the guys who are being called today to go and represent the country at the Olympic Games. That alone was a pride that I still hold on to it up to now. It was a very good and something that I'll always remember in my entire career.
After finishing third in the heats, Omanyala qualified for the semi-finals, which he also finished in the third position, but didn't qualify for the finals.
So when I saw my heat and I was heat 5 with I think everybody in that heat had a sub 10 and I was the only one who had a 10-0. But then I told myself, these are just people like me. They qualified like I did, so let's do it.
Omanyala, however, was glad to set a new national record and also believes that one day he will bang an Olympic gold medal. He also encouraged the athletes to continue working hard for Team Kenya and also urged the citizens to always give morale to their athletes instead of mocking them.
I've been reading comments about Kenyans that they're trolling people on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They don't know how much sacrifice these athletes are making to get just only at the Olympic Games. So when I look at the comments and I see people talking bad about athletes, I feel bad, because if you look the sacrifice that all these athletes have made, they have given their best when they get to that field.
Also wondering why I was struggling with that particular name. Well, I happen to be Manyara, and this is Omanyala, so we might say Manyara. You never know. Well, we all said yes. Where I come from, our tongues are quite heavy. But congratulations to the young man there. Yes, may he realize his dreams there. Actually, if he ran 10 seconds, yeah, on a 100 meters stretch, so it means he did a meter in 1 second. Mathematics, don't struggle. It's 100 divided by 10. So Okay, now still keeping up with sports is that the Kenya tennis team will take part in the forthcoming Africa Group 3 tennis tournament slated for August 11th all through to the 14th in Cairo, Egypt, is exuding confidence of registering an impressive result at the tourney. The team made up of Ismail Changwa, Kevin Cheruiyot, Albert Njogu and Ibrahim Kibet, as well as reserve player Derek Ominde, will battle for the 2 tickets available for the promotion to the 2022 World Group 2. The Group 3 championship has attracted hosts Egypt, Kenya, Algeria, Benin, Ghana, Mozambique and Rwanda. 7 countries will be drawn into 2 groups. Nations finishing at the top 2 of each group will compete in a playoff for the promotion, with the winner of Group A facing the runner-up of Group B and the winner of Group B meeting up the runner-up of Group A. Well, that brings a cap to stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Remember, it was confirmed that a controversial businessman there that is Turkish is called Aydin exited Kenya in unclear circumstances, and the legal team led by Ahmed Nasir says that they're going to be seeking some legal redress to have him back in the country, because they claim that he has a legal working permit that is set to expire in 2023. This is just some of the stories you're going to be focusing on. Remember, it's 364 days to the next election. So much is happening. IEBC claiming that they are facing a budget deficit of a cool 14 billion shillings, and also rolling out and giving the guidelines in the Gazette notice there, where under these particular guidelines, presidential candidates have been given the maximum they can spend in these upcoming elections is 4.5 billion shillings. It is a wrap. Get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. Let's do this same time tomorrow. I'm Regina Manyara.
You have no right to beg for mercy for her.
I'm willing to take her punishment. Please forgive her.
Please help me to check his real identity and confirm he is your son.
It's a trap.
You see?
Promise. I will get revenge.
Yo, mambo vipi watu wangu popote pale mlipo, nasema asanteni sana jamaa kwa kujiunga na mimi kila wakati kupitia kipindi Top Mashariki kupitia Channel 1, au sio? Nambari 1 mtu wangu nchini Kenya, KBC. Kama vipi mtu wangu, nasema asanteni sana jamaa. Kumbukeni kwamba Top Mashariki kuanzia hii wiki, yani this coming week mazee, itakuwa inakujia kila siku ya Jumanne saa 4 usiku. Yani katika mpango mzima ni Jumanne kuanzia saa 4 usiku. Top
All right, so at 40 minutes past 7 a.m., so let's just quickly take a look on the traffic flow along Thika Superhighway and also try to check how these 4 footbridges that had been designated at various areas, they were already, in terms of installation, already complete and opened up to the public. So let's just quickly check how the area is doing in terms of traffic, try to see if at all it has reduced traffic flow, given the fact that this is actually why all these footbridges were being installed. This is just one of them. This is one around Survey area. There's one around Garden City Mall. One was installed at it was early last year. That was at Witithia, as well as there's one around Mangu. So actually, these 4 footbridges add to the 18 already existing along Thika Superhighway. If you can remember, this specific road was expanded to make it a highway with various lanes, so it was just only necessary to have these footbridges in place because it aids in reduction of number of death cases, and the concept is still the same, because if you lack this, especially on major roads or even highways, it simply means that pedestrians have to quickly cross over from one side of the road to the other side. But when this is in place, then again it clearly means that we have pedestrians having the exact places where they need to cross over as they move from one side of the road to the other side of the road. Again, one of the things that was a key feature in all these 4 footbridges that I've just mentioned to you when the installation process happened was to ensure that lights were put in place, just like what you're seeing here. And the reason again is very simple: to reduce on the mugging cases in the early morning hours as well as evening rush hours, given that that was also a common feature, most especially along Thika Superhighway, either in the morning or even evening hours. So that is why it became necessary to fit the lights inside the footbridges like what we are seeing in this area. So right now we want to quickly check the traffic flow, especially around this area and also around the areas of Kasarani, Mwiki. If again you can also remember that around that specific area there was still an undergoing road construction, specifically along the Kasarani Mwiki road, given the fact that that specific road has always been in a poor state. And early last year, after residents complained, given the fact that anytime it rained, in terms of just being passable, very difficult. So it was after that uproar that they began the construction of that specific route. So this morning also want to check how that same area is doing in terms of traffic, try to see if all this ongoing road activities or road works has an impact on the traffic flow along this route. Not forgetting also BRT is slowly taking shape along Thika Superhighway. So clearly there's a lot going on along this route, and all these are clear indicators of perhaps heavy kind of traffic. So just a quick look on the traffic flow, try to see how the area is looking like this morning, and perhaps we can just begin from where we left earlier. This is around that area which I've just mentioned right now. That is the Kasarani Mwiki road. And also it's very important for me to mention to you that part of the major reasons why we are looking at this specific route or this road this morning, and also one of the major reasons why it will be a key area, is because of all those works that I've just mentioned to you. So this is how the area is looking like. This is actually as you leave the roundabout, as you branch off to Kasarani Mwiki road. The roundabout not so bad, however traffic is being spotted just around the roundabout, which is again one of those things that we'd expect, because again the concept of the reason is still the same. Around roundabouts, especially those that branch off to either slip roads, major roads or highways, this is basically what you'd expect to see. Because of that reason, slip roads or perhaps major roads or even highways, clearly those are busy roads as well as major roads. So what you are seeing is basically what you'd expect to see. On this particular one, just branches off to Kasarani Mwiki road as it leaves the areas of Thika Superhighway there, as again you get to leave that specific route coming to the city center via the same highway. So along that specific route, which is the Kasarani Mwiki, not so bad, just again traffic being witnessed on some specific areas or parts, but altogether still moving at a very swift pace. As you leave the roundabout, still coming through Thika Superhighway or Thika Road in itself, again moving at a very swift pace. So I mean, it's really quite interesting, because just mentioning all the ongoing roadworks along this route, which could be a clear reason for heavy kind of traffic, but clearly as of now that's not the case on these areas that we are focusing on. So it simply means if at all you're coming from areas that perhaps at around areas of Kasarani,
Mwiki also coming to the city center, or even the outskirts of Nairobi, all those counties, perhaps counties of Kiambu, Isiolo, Thika, coming to Nairobi via this same route, this is again the best time for you to do that, because around this area up until Garden City, barely any kind of heavy traffic. And also just perhaps around the same route, which is Garden City Mall, those are our areas where there was really heavy kind of traffic. But again, it's also because of the lack of that footbridge, because of perhaps what I've just mentioned. But clearly with the installation of that footbridge, looks like it's really reducing the traffic flow there. So that's how it's looking like in terms of traffic this morning. Like I mentioned, this will still remain our key focus area, at least today and even days to come, because of those ongoing roadworks along this specific route.
All right, after that comprehensive traffic update, just to take a look on what's happening on our roads, and of course, finally trained yesterday in Nairobi. So as it is, we usually don't know what happens when it rains. But anyway, good morning. My name is Victor Low, and welcome to the program. This is People in Politics. Let's just take a look at some of the stories that we have lined up for you and what is shaping our political scene. Remember, we only have 364 days now, all right? 364 days to the next poll. So with me in studio is Wasin Gishu, woman representative, that is Gladys Boss Sholei, and today is going to be a one-woman show. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, let's just go straight to Tokyo. The athletes did well, and you represent them. You must be a happy lady.
I am. I'm extremely proud of our athletes.
Yes.
I still feel that we should change them. We don't give them sufficient support that we should. But I think we can do better. We have to become more focused. I also know that some of their performance suffered because of the COVID restrictions.
Yes.
Many of them who would stay in camp, in a boarding camp to train, many of them around my home, most of them were closed. So they were not able to do the training as well as they usually do when they are at camp. Because when they disperse to their homes, they are left to train on their own without any professional support or group support. Their diets are also interrupted, so they had a very difficult time. So considering with all those difficulties, they still are naturals, and I think it's something we must nurture.
Some question we were asking ourselves: what do they eat now that they are your neighbors? When you look at Eliud Kipchoge, actually he was running against himself. Yes. What do they eat? A lot of music,
I think it's the genetics, of course. Science has said the growing up in high altitude allows you to be able to hold oxygen longer, and therefore you have more endurance. So I think it's the genetics and the area that they grow up, and food is a big thing.
Exactly.
And I think that's the sad part in Kenya. We grow healthy food, then we sell it and buy unhealthy food from the supermarket. So even when we talk about taking health being one of our pillars, we must focus on the food intake, because a lot of the health problems we have got to do with what we eat. There has been a very marked increase of non-communicable diseases in Kenya. And all of it is related to food. And I'm happy I saw the story on my pesticides petition. And maybe you'll give me a chance to say something about that.
Actually, just pick it from there, because the director was like, Mheshimiwa is here, so she's the right person to talk about that.
Yes. I did file a petition on behalf of several groups and lobby groups that exist to try and have 267 types of pesticides to be banned from Kenya.
267.
Yes. Remember, we import 10,000 tons, over 10,000 tons of pesticides. All I was asking is 267 of those to be banned, because already they have been banned in the US, banned in the UK, and most of Europe, on the reason that they cause cancer. It is confirmed science.
Researched.
In fact, in fact, in the US and the UK, many people who contracted cancer, who got cancer as a result of exposure to those pesticides, have been paid in the billions as damages. So this is a confirmed fact. This is in peer-reviewed medical journals. It's confirmed. There are those, and I think when I presented my petition in Parliament, we had a document, we called it the white paper, which was developed for me by top scientists in the world. And it clearly made a list, said the following cause cancer, the following cause respiratory problems, the following cause kidney problems, the following cause, it's listed and it is there. And the people I must blame is the pesticide control board in Kenya. It stops with them. They know that for a fact. They are the ones who approve those pesticides to be used in Kenya. And you must note that in those countries, their law allows them to produce the pesticide, provided they confirm it's for export to a country that allows it, or a country that is stupid enough to accept it. So they don't use it for their own people. So they're actually sending us disease. And they're the same one who sell us the cancer drugs. So I know, and I remember when I appealed to the MPs, I said to them, each of you either know someone in your household or a relative or somebody who has cancer. How can we allow this to continue? And I did hear someone, I didn't get his name, who said that it's going to affect food security. That is, it is not true at all. Because it's not that we are wiping out all pesticides off the market. We are just saying these isolated ones. We have more than enough safe pesticides that we can use. So all we are saying is remove these dangerous ones immediately, and let's continue. It all we'll do is import more of the safe ones. So let's kill that market. Let those people in the UK and the US close those factories, those death factories that they're manufacturing pesticides that they don't want to sell to their own people or use in their own country, but use in our country.
Maybe
and so it's not going to affect food security at all.
Maybe the director can play that story so that you can have a background of exactly what's happening, because the issue of having pesticides which are banned in the country, it's not something that's new to us. Probably, director, you can get that story. All right.
By Uasin Gishu woman representative Gladys Bose-Sholei asked Parliament to order the ban on the use of 262 harmful pesticides in the Kenyan market, banned in the Europe, the United Kingdom and the US. The petition was adopted by a health committee who recommended, among others, that the Pest Control Products Board, PCPB, ensure that the chemicals banned in other jurisdictions are not in use in Kenya. On Monday, the Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya, the National Potato Council of Kenya and the Cereal Growers Association opposed the petition and called on the National Assembly to carry out an impact assessment of such a decision.
Those who are outside the agricultural space may not understand the crisis that looms in case the current proposal in Parliament of banning the 262 molecules takes effect. The plant protection products are essential to our agricultural food systems, particularly on food security and nutrition.
Okisegere says the proposal to ban the pesticides will lead to a maize production crisis, reduce tomato production by 80%, and drastically affect the harvest of coffee, potato, wheat, rice, onions, and most other crops.
Whatever we do, the processes must be very well guided by science and by the right policies.
They are.
So it seems there's a lot of opposition in that petition.
Yes, the opposition comes from the Pesticide Control Board, whom I believe are compromised by the traders who sell those pesticides. That's one. Number two, there is farmers who want to have it easy. Because the more lethal a pesticide is, the easier it is to use, because you just spray it, the crop is safe, the crop looks very clean, which means you're able to put it on the market without working a little harder. There is options. There is other safer products that they can use. So this is also driven a lot by the business. And you must realize that some of them said to me that, oh, this particular pesticide is safe if the farmers wear gloves, if they don't spray it near a river or if they have protective gear.
But what about the end
joke
product?
is, they don't even have shoes. Our farmers don't even have shoes.
Yes.
So when you start talking about protective gear, you're living in another world.
Yeah.
Because we know the reality. No farmer has protective gear. I know many farmers don't have gumboots. They don't even have the right jackets to wear to even protect themselves from the rain. Remember, these pesticides go into the ground. Who is policing to make sure that it's not near the rivers? So it's going into the rivers, it's going into our water bodies. Our animals and livestock are eating the grass, which has the pesticides. It goes into the meat that we eat, and that is why we are getting sick. One should ask themselves, when I was growing up, I had very little about cancer. Today, every place you turn, somebody has cancer. So are they telling us that it's better to have food in your stomach but let it kill you? You know, it doesn't make sense.
Because of business.
We can produce food.
Yeah.
I also tell people, and by the way, research was done. If you go to many farmers, their farms, they will tell you, this vegetable is for my family. That's the one they don't put pesticides.
In a very small strip.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell you, and this one here is for export. And this other one is for the local market. You know, because as export, they actually check the residue of the pesticides, and they won't allow it. It would be cleared for export. And what happens is, when it's not cleared for export, it should be destroyed. Instead, it comes back to the local market. So it is sad. And when I think the gentleman there said people who are not in the farming. I am a farmer. I understand it. I grew up as a farmer. I always tell people, if you see a vegetable that is perfectly clean, that doesn't even have one insect bite,
think twice.
You should be very afraid, because even the insect knows it's poison. No, the insects, I mean, they will not eat something that is poisonous. So when you see the insect not eating it, it means it is poisonous to the insect. So how much more poisonous is it to you, who's having it in large quantities?
Then it means that we've been consuming a lot of poison for a long time.
Yes, and I think this is a crusade I will not give up.
Yeah.
And soon we will be going after the Pesticide Control Board as individuals, because they have failed in their professional work. They shouldn't, someone said there that it should be guided by science. Anybody can read the white paper that we developed under it's called the Food Security Team. Actually, it's called Route to Food. The document that was developed is actually based on a desk literature review. All we needed to do was get all the international journals peer-reviewed by the top science schools in the world, in those countries who have studied it. We looked at the lawsuits that have been brought against those companies, and all of it was we reviewed and said, all we said is, don't even do fresh research in Kenya. Just get rid of these ones. We can continue the research afterwards on all the others. But at least on these particular ones, the work has been done for us. So the Pesticide Control Board needs to do nothing. Just read the international journals and look at what is happening around the world. And remember that those scientists overseas are much better than the ones we have here. So they have been doing this research for hundreds of years. We've had a shorter stint. They are good, yes, but we've had a shorter stint at the research. So it is possible, and we do that all the time. There's nothing, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Let us just borrow from what has been done. So there is no excuse whatsoever. In fact, I was disappointed with the Health Committee, because the Health Committee shouldn't have passed the buck to tell them, please ensure that you remove, just on the Pesticide Board, please ensure that you remove the harmful pesticides. They should have said, because they had sufficient data before them and presentations by scientists before them, and they should have just said, this should be banned in the interim, even as we are discussing.
But why did it take long?
Or even say, phase it out, that within the next 1 year, they should be off our market. At least that way, if anybody has stock that they want to sell, they will sell. Unfortunately for us, I had wanted to go on a campaign when I would actually name those products by their trade name. Unfortunately, you know, I was worried of the lawsuits that they would have, against me. But I think we will get there. We will get the Wananchi to get the information and know, and we'll let the Wananchi themselves wage a war against those products. And I speak, and I from an informed position, because when this research was done for me, even in my own, my parents own an agrovet shop. And I remember telling them, you've got to get this off the shelf and get that off the shelf. It's not it's not safe.
Yeah.
So we will begin to start this campaign and take it to the people. Unfortunately, these pesticide companies have a lot of money. I know that I did receive some threats at the time when I pushed for the petition. And they are the ones, if you listen to all the advertisements in the local radio stations, especially the vernacular stations, they're basically pushing products to wananchi and saying it's the savior, it will protect your crop, etc. But it's not actually
We don't
safe.
do our due diligence.
Yes.
I think that's a fair point. It means that we've been consuming a lot of poison. From your petition, over 200 pesticides in our local market.
Myself included. I also realized I was using some of those products on my own farm. It's frightening. For years, I didn't know.
All right. Let's take a break, and when we come back, now we are going to delve more into issues. And remember, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, part of his manifesto was also security, in terms of food security in the country. We'll also take a look at that and much, much more after this particular break. We'll be right back.
Bado sisi wenye nyumba tutoke kwa hii nyumba muingie nyinyi, alafu mtaishi amstarehe mfreshane. Una kazi ya kufanya wewe?
Yaani wewe unajiingilia mahali tu, unajiingilia tu. Yaani ningekushika kupiga mapanga ingekuwaje?
Kina nani ni wapenzi? Wewe na Safari. Sasa tumfuta yupi?
Bado una vita na mimi sio?
Hapana. Wewe hasa una matatizo gani mwanamke wewe?
Kwa nini shemeji?
Na akijua kwamba hiyo penalty haiko panda na nyumba, hautafurahikia.
Rich forever, yeah, yeah. Connected to the cool reggae style, and the people in Ireland. I stop on the scene and them say, here Rasta. I stick gold and green and them say, here Rasta. Turn up the radio and turn up the music.
What does this number mean to you? A pack leader? A winner? Or just a number? To us, it means freshness, boldness, vibrancy, and heritage. That's why at KBC Channel 1, we make it easier for you to pop up your family entertainment to a fresh, exciting, and colorful bouquet.
All right, welcome back. And if you have got any questions, any comments, please just go to our social media at Victor Law at KBC Channel 1, and we'll be sampling them during and after this particular debate. All right, so Mheshimiwa, it's been a busy week since last week, politically. And yesterday we saw the businessman, the Turkish, who was deported back without, let me use this word because as per the information we have there, he wasn't deported. So what actually happened?
Okay, the information that I have is what I've read in the newspapers or heard what his lawyer, Hamid Nasir, did say. Hamid Nasir confirms that he was forcefully taken out of the country, processed at the airport by the anti-terrorism police unit, and put on an aircraft back to Turkey. If it is true that he's a terrorist, and because he was handled by the anti-terrorism unit, then he should be charged in court and arraigned in court as a terrorist. That has happened in the past. We've had we even have a terrorism court in Shimolatewa that was designed with security features for arraigning terror suspects. So you don't deport a terrorist and you don't put them on an aircraft. In fact, no aircraft would allow them to be on an aircraft if they are a terrorist, because they would be on a no-fly list, and that is why they'll be held in whichever country and can be tried. And terrorism is an international crime. So I think what has happened is very disappointing. Our security apparatus have decided to become political as opposed to doing their job properly. I think this is wrong. I was happy to see that it will be ventilated in court by his lawyers, even if he has left the country. It is something that we must set the record straight. Because if we allow a government to abuse power, and then we are going on a dangerous path. In fact, I tell people, if you allow them to abuse power on one person, they will do it on the next person. And I think it started with Miguna, if you remember. Same kind of tactics were used, and they bundled him out of the country. And later, actually, he could have had he had permission to come back into the country, but unfortunately, because of the altercation that happened at the airport, then you are put on a no-fly list. So, which means that is what he's suffering from. Not that the courts have not confirmed that he's allowed to come back to in Kenya. So this is an abuse of the rule of law. We also hope that Law Society of Kenya, which is actually mandated under the law to help uphold the rule of law in Kenya, should be able to step in, because this has to be cleared. Because one day each of us will suffer that kind of issue. It's also very sad for Kenya because it sends a very bad message. When people want to go and do business in a certain country, the first thing they check is, are there arbitrary arrests? Will I get a fair trial before the court system? Will the cases be heard expeditiously? Will I be dealt with in fairness, in whichever manner that I'm dealt with? So if those things don't exist, and that security or affirmation by a country doesn't exist, it then affects investors coming into Kenya. It sends a very bad message. I was, and remember, this is somebody who had received a work permit, had a visa, had been coming in and out of Kenya, and so on. So it's just for it out of the blue that you should be bundled into an aircraft and taken. And this is not the first business person that this has happened to. It's happened to many other business people. Even just the fact that their companies are raided, or they have difficulty getting licenses, or they just, life is made difficult for them. They make it difficult for them not to undertake business. And that is what affects our economy. If you look at countries like Dubai, Dubai has no minerals. They have nothing, but they have managed, because they've made a place a safe haven for doing business. Anyone can do business there. Everybody there is able to get their work permit or their visa, provided they give the right documents. That is what keeps Dubai as a great country. Dubai doesn't even have oil. Some people think that Dubai has oil. They don't.
It's a desert.
It's a desert. But it's because they have made a conducive environment for people to be able to go and trade there. You want to open a company, you'll do it within 24 hours, and so on. So it is sad for Kenya. And Kenya also is, just really recently, the president signed a bilateral agreement with Turkey, where Turkey agreed to grow the trade between Kenya to about 100 billion, 100 billion shillings. They also agreed. There is also a lot of trade we do. We get our fertilizer from Turkey. We get a lot of our farm equipment from Turkey. We get a lot of steel from Turkey. Also, Turkey receives from Kenya tobacco, edible fruits, and
even flowers.
And flowers and also cereals. So this is a trade partner. It sends a very bad message. Even if there was an issue, it should have been dealt with diplomatically. That's why we have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that you don't end up causing a foreign affairs altercation.
Could it be the reason why he wasn't charged? Because the question is, if at all he had any other questions to answer, which country ought to have charged him, Uganda or Kenya?
No, actually, terrorism is an international crime.
So any country can deal with it.
The country at which point you are found charges you. That's why you had Kenyans who were in the US. We've had issues where Kenyans were actually arrested in the US and charged there, or they were charged at the point of entering US and charged there. Nobody's ever deported back to their country for the charges, not at all. So this is highly irregular.
So was it a ploy to quote unquote embarrass and harass the deputy president?
I believe so, but that's my personal opinion. I believe so.
Why so?
Because the deputy president, remember, has no privacy whatsoever. Everything he does, everywhere he moves, every point at where he is,
he's always on check.
Is known. Yes. Remember the security officers that are around him, they protect him. They report to him, but they also report on him.
Yes.
So his whereabouts are known by NIS at all times. The people he associates with are known, and it's public knowledge. So to pretend that you don't know what the deputy president is doing, that's a bit strange. Yes.
That tweet was on behalf of the Kenyan government. The tweet he sent, that it was all about political pettiness, and he finished destroy. It was political pettiness, is expensive, dangerous, and will destroy our economy. Shame. And he said he called him and he apologized on behalf of the Kenyan government.
Yes.
Was that a direct attack to the president or the government?
No, I think I've had situations sometimes when foreign guests that I know or persons that I know have been manhandled by the police, harassed by the police, and sometimes I've actually gone to sort it out, and I do apologize to them always. I say I am really sorry, I'm embarrassed that this can happen in my country. So we do that all the time when people are not treated well, and we realize it, because you feel ashamed as a person.
Yeah.
Yes.
So moving forward, are we likely to see, what are we likely to see? Because now that he was not charged, he's out of the country, so what next then?
I think his lawyers, I've read that his lawyers said they will fight that deportation order or whatever process was used in order to conclude it and to settle it for future for other persons.
Yeah.
Yes, because that is not fair. And even this was, and I'm saying that's why I say it's politically motivated. I had a member of parliament on television say that because an investor borrowed 15 billion shillings from Equity Bank, a Ugandan investor, borrowed 15 billion shillings from Equity, then they are not an investor. You know, and that is the most, that tells you it's political, because I don't believe that that member of parliament can be so ignorant not to know not to know that an investor can borrow money. His assumption was that if you're an investor, you should be carrying money in your briefcases and come with it. No, investors borrow and then go and invest. That's what an investor is. And we should be grateful that because that investor did borrow the money, because Equity Bank is a Kenyan-owned bank by a Kenyan, and we are so proud of Equity Bank. They have a branch in Uganda, and so, of course, if you borrow in Uganda beyond a certain limit, you'd have to be referred to headquarters to collect the money. Remember, Equity Bank in Kenya was going to earn money from it.
In terms of interest.
And they pay taxes. So we encourage many people to come and borrow from Equity Bank in Kenya. Why would you think that it is wrong for that to happen? Because we are the beneficiaries at the end of the day.
The question is now, there's a situation where the deputy president, from whatever happened, he was denied access and flight to Uganda. From the legal perspective, is he supposed to seek permission from his boss?
I think that one I'll leave it to it, because I think the deputy president spoke to it.
Yes.
I think he said it on national television. I do not purport to speak on his behalf, but he did indicate on national television when he was interviewed that he has never sought clearances before. And so he was surprised that this happened. But also, I've worked for the public service. The regulation to seek clearance is not for the intention of prohibiting you from traveling. It is for your whereabouts to be known should you be required on duty. So that you can be recalled back on duty if you're required. It's not supposed to be to stop your movement.
To grant you exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So usually I have had situations when I have been senior in government where my officers have not gotten their clearance, and then they get to the airport. What we normally do, those days we'd actually fax it, you know, or email it to the airport. So even if he required clearance, after a phone call, it should have been sent. Or even a phone call to the immigration officer. It's then facilitate it. If you demand that he requires it, then facilitate it. It's not supposed to stop your movement. That is wrong. So again, we are using regulations that we have punitively the way we want. We've seen the same thing happen when people are arrested on Friday. We had recently Honorable Gashagwa, who was arrested at 3 a.m. in the morning on a Friday. We sat at DCI the entire day until 5 p.m. When they finally gave him the charges. You're supposed to be told your charges at the point of arrest. So at 3 in the morning when they entered his house, they should have had the charges against him. And again, we are beginning to break the rules. So it's unfortunate that laws that we fought so hard for are now being used in a punitive manner. Because the law that you must be arraigned in court within 24 hours was intended to stop people being held for long periods of time. Again, the law entitles you to reasonable bail. Now they realize that is the law, so they say let's pick you on Fridays so that we have to take you to court on Monday. So we are seeing a big degeneration from the 2010 Constitution. My biggest disappointments are persons like Raila Odinga, who fought single-handedly to have those laws put in because he suffered arbitrary arrest. Haminwa, Hanyona, you know, all those people who used to be, they are the ones who fought to put it in the Constitution. And now they are watching that law that they fought so hard for being contravened, and they are not saying a word.
That is worrying, because we are heading towards an election, and a lot is going to happen during this cycle, either politically instigated arrests or otherwise. So, all right, let's just put this to rest. Now, the issue is over. We wait to see, because you said that his lawyers are going to court today to follow up whether he's out of the country and how it's going to pan out. All right, so IEBC, I know for politicians now, time is now this one. It's over. Are you prepared for the next 1 year? Individually?
Yes, I am prepared. I mean, when you're sworn in as a parliamentarian, you know you have exactly 5 years. And we know, and thank God for our new constitution, the date of election is predictable. The first Tuesday of August.
But which is in contention. People are saying that the president, like former nominated Kanu, that is Honorable Njoroge, said that if we have an election next year, then it means that the president's term of tenure will be short by around 4 months until next year, 2023. Is it going to be so?
That is wishful thinking. I think the matter was settled. If you remember, the first elections were held in March. And then the matter went before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court gave an advisory opinion and confirmed that the elections will be held every first Tuesday of August, every 5th year. End of story. Those who are trying to settle that story, that they can be an extension or deferment of the elections, have not read the Constitution or are intending to negate the Constitution, and that's not going to happen. Kenyans are so acutely conscious that they are going to have elections in August. You cannot tell them that you won't have elections. In fact, my people will rebel against me if I dared say that I want to stay a day longer than for the period they've elected me. They want to have the choice to decide whether I should go back or not. That is the psyche of the Kenyan voter. So let's face it, we've been prepared throughout that we are having the elections in 2022. So all those stories are people who wish that they could find a way of extending and the term. And you must remember, Kenyans are not Ugandans. Kenyans are such democratically alive and switched on public that they're not the type that their rights can be trampled on and they watch. They know very well and they're prepared for those elections. And in fact, you can see even the opposition themselves are also preparing for the election. They have no doubt in their mind that there will be election in August 2022.
Make me understand this. So at what point does the president's term of office begin? The day he's sworn in or the day of an election?
Okay, you remember once the time that is set for the elections, because we know it's every Tuesday, so his term ends when the next president is sworn in. Yes.
All right. So IBC,
and there is a transition period. Our law has clearly provided for the transition period. It has also provided should there be any election petition, so the president can hold on beyond the date that of the election and the date of the swearing in, if there is an election petition. But that is clearly set out in the Constitution.
So currently,
no doubt at all.
Currently, we don't have any reason for an election to be postponed in Kenya.
No. The only reason provided in the Constitution is if we're at war with a foreign country. Not at war with ourselves, at war with a foreign country. And it must be approved by Parliament. So there is no reason whatsoever.
All right. 364 days counting to the next general election. IBC just released the figures yesterday, and the number is 40.9 billion shillings. Is Kenya so rich? That is the question. My director just asked, are we so rich, 40 billion shillings for an election?
Yes, I think, in fact, that's a conservative price. When I figure, when
actually,
I look...
Chebukati, it's about the bare minimum.
Yes. It costs quite a bit to have our elections. Reason being, remember, we had the 2010 Constitution.
Yes.
After the trouble we had in 2007, we had the Kriegler Commission or committee that came up with what we should do to make sure that our elections are safe. Kenyans themselves gave their own views. There were a lot of recommendations by the Kriegler report. We then moved as Kenyans to over-legislate elections, and we have. The cost of elections is very high. Why? One, we use biometric kits.
Yes.
What they're calling KIMs.
Yeah.
Basically, that is state-of-the-art technology. No country uses it. Australia, which has the best run elections or the best electoral commission in the world, does not use electronic kits. You don't even carry an ID and you don't have a voter's card. You simply go to your polling station, you give your address, and they check your name, they cross out your name, it's a photocopy, and the ballot papers are photocopies. You vote and you walk out.
That's it.
Because they trust themselves, there is no suspicion. I think what we are paying for as Kenyans is because suspicion, our history of stolen elections, so we became very careful. So the KIMS kit is a huge cost. Our ballot papers are as safe as banknotes. In fact, probably has more security features than banknotes. I think they have no less than 10 security features. I was there when it was designed, yes. I was part of the team that actually designed them. So that is the problem. You have the watermark, you have the thing that you even have the torch that you use so that it can show the blue reflector. Or there is all these features. So our ballot papers are extremely expensive. Also, we decided that we don't trust to have the opaque ballot boxes because we don't trust. So we moved and said we want translucent boxes. Those are actually the most expensive boxes. That's another cost. We also moved to say we must have a polling station cannot have more than 700 people. So when you have 700 people per polling station,
it means you have to distribute all polling stations across the country.
Yes, exactly. So, and remember, every polling station, every classroom will have 6 clerks who are paid, a presiding officer, a deputy presiding officer. It will have 2 security officials, and that also we pay. The police force are paid. By the security agencies are actually paid by IEBC during the elections. Remember, vehicles are rented. Once the ballot papers land in Nairobi, they have to be held in a warehouse. There will be trucks with police officers escorting those trucks to take them to the counties. When they get to the counties, they stay in another warehouse where they will also be other vehicles rented to distribute them to various places. Other parts of Kenya, they are distributed by helicopter and fixed wing aircraft.
Because of logistical
and
challenges.
boats. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's so much cost in our elections. So that figure, having been an election manager myself, is pretty justified. When we talk about when you have the clerks, remember that you've got to train them first, and this you're talking about several hundreds of thousands of persons. So when you train them, you pay them, you house them, you feed them. When they come on duty, again you pay them, you feed them, you transport them. They will also have to have airtime in order to be able to make their phone calls and so on. Remember, every polling station has a backup light. They usually have those gas lamps.
Yes.
So those gas lamps have to be purchased.
Yeah.
Because they are required should electricity fail. So there's a lot of costs that go.
So 40 billion is fair enough.
It's fair, and I think it's a conservative figure. During elections, because all the ballot papers and every polling station has to be secured by security agencies, but also we still need our police force to be available should there be any problems. They normally they recruit from KWS, the prison service, everywhere. Any uniform police are usually taken to be used. All of them are paid.
Yes.
They get a per diem. They travel. They've got to be paid.
It's a process. That an election is a process, and actually, if you look at you have been there before. It's a process that begins after every election period.
In fact, for election managers, when you study election management, it's a 5-year cycle.
It doesn't
so there's
stop.
Activities, it doesn't stop.
Right.
Unfortunately, in Kenya, I know that the Electoral Commission have not been well treated because they should have been. In fact, it's imperative and urgent that they must start mass voter registration right away, because they say according to their statistics and according to the 2019 census report, there is some 7 million Kenyans who have not registered as voters. And I think the High Court decision did allude to it. And if I was Chebukati managing elections, other things can be done later. Other activities can happen later. I would start
the mass voter registration.
Immediately first, because with mass voter registration, after the registration, you have the cleanup of the register. They hire hundreds of young people to help clean up the register. Computers, they are renting rooms and so on, and most of the colleges are usually taken and used to clean up the register. They've got to train those people who are doing the cleanup of the register. They use very high technology to clean up the register, and after cleaning up the register, they then take it back to the polling stations for inspection of the register. And then after inspection, people can make corrections. It goes back and goes through the process of cleaning up. So it's a long process, and I think they should start voter registration immediately. Other activities can be later. I saw also that they've mentioned about campaign financing.
Exactly, and the caps.
Yes.
Let me just bring to your attention something here. Among some of the things that the chair said that, among other things, open campaign financing accounts. That is for any competitor. One must have financing expenditure committees and appoint authorized persons who will manage campaign funds at least 2 months before election. Now, the new rules are contained in the Campaign Finances Act of 2013, which IBC hopes to enforce ahead of 2022 general election. The question is, if we have all these rules put in place, don't you think that most of the young people who are planning to get into politics will be locked out?
Yes, and that is why it is sad that IEBC is doing it now. That's a knee-jerk reaction. Remember, that law of campaign financing was entrenched in the Constitution of 2010. After 2010, we were unable to implement the law. And then there was a knee-jerk reaction again by IEBC in, I think, 2017. They attempted to put in the same law. And people went to court because the time was too short to set up all that apparatus and so on. And this is what they should be doing in the 5-year cycle. Because if they did it earlier, people would be prepared and would have been set up, or at least there should have been a public participation on that regulation to allow the regulations not to be punitive or to lock out people who are unable to set up a committee and so on.
Yeah.
So that it works well for somebody who's running as a presidential candidate, but it's a bit difficult for, like, you know, an MCA, you know, and a member of parliament. It's a bit too high key.
Yeah.
If I was IEBC, I wouldn't even worry about setting spending limits.
Yeah.
Because what are they setting the spending limits based on? You don't know what the cost of car hires or billboards or posters will be next year.
Yes.
So I don't know what they are basing it on.
Yeah.
Usually, in most countries, on the campaign financing law, they don't focus on the spending limit, but they focus on the reporting.
Right.
So you spend, but you're required to report.
Yes.
Because even now, how will they police how much you spent?
Yes.
If I mean, when you're campaigning, you might find a few of my friends will tell me, I'll give you 3 of my vehicles. You can use them during campaign. How do I cost that? Do I cost it like I was hiring the car?
Yeah.
But it doesn't really cost me. I've not really spent the car hire.
Yeah.
Somebody has given me their vehicle gratis. So it's a bit, or if you know somebody who has a printing plant and they are a friend of yours, they can say, I'll print your posters.
For free. So how do you factor that?
How do you factor that? So that's why I'm saying reporting is a more efficient way, especially for IEBC that is so understaffed. They are so overworked. They are already out of time. They have no business creating new jobs for themselves.
Like, for example, I'm seeing an example of, for example, Nairobi County, which is in 2017, had the highest county limit with 432 million shillings and has its ceilings slashed to 117 million shillings. Now, candidates bidding, for example, in Mombasa, governor, for instance, are limited to 39 million shillings, down from 129 million shillings in 2017. The question is, how are they going to make sure that this money is factored in the way you're putting it, and you're not going to have candidates reporting, and probably
people will even under-report. Even if they spend more, they'll under-report.
Yeah.
Or some people just over-report because it helps their ego. May not be necessarily that they spend that amount of money.
And yes.
Yeah. So
and
even those figures are so high, I wonder who spends that amount of money on a campaign.
It's mind-boggling. The question is, what if someone campaigns?
If we had that kind of economy, Kenya would be doing very well.
I hope so. Yeah. All right. So the question is, what if a person contests for a particular seat and he loses or she loses? Do they still go to IBC to report on the expenditure?
Yes, according to those regulations. Yeah. Everybody. So I can imagine IEBC being swamped with all sorts of paperwork and information. They'll not even have time to read it. Even if we send it to their systems will crash. So IEBC should focus on critical tasks that they can achieve to have a free and fair election. If they want to manage campaign financing, it is something that you must work on over the 5-year cycle before the next election. You don't start it when it is exactly a year to elections.
From your own perspective and having worked with that electoral body, is IEBC ready right now?
IEBC can be ready if they are given the resources. Like I said, they must be able to immediately start mass voter registration. That's imperative. So if they are properly funded for their activities, they can be able to do it, because a lot of the officers there have been there for a while. They're very well experienced. I've looked at the election operations plan. The only problem is their time is very short. They should have started their activities much earlier. So we do hope that they can start right away. They are capable, but our elections require resources. Yes. Like I said, if we have to have the voter registration, you've got to open every polling station. So it's like an election. Then you've got to, and if you do it earlier, it means you can use less equipment, because you can use one equipment moving around different days to a different market, a different ward, and so on. So that they can be able to.
It's a work that Chebukati is going to contend with, because you all know that 2022 is going to be one of the most competitive elections, and he said in a report yesterday that it's going to be more competitive because we have more 20,000 candidates up from 14,000. That is for all the aspirants in the country. That is 6,000 more. That must be a lot of process, even having in mind that time is not on our side with 1 year to go.
Yes, exactly. And remember that because we do 6 elections in a day, then it is, in other countries they probably have 2 elections, so they have Congress on a different time, Senate at a different time, and so on. But we are doing all 6 elections on one specific day. Hence the reason why we have to reduce our polling stations to 700, so that people can be able to vote between 6 o'clock and 5 p.m. I always tell people every voter spends 5 minutes to vote.
Yes.
If you were to look at you will need 3,500 minutes per polling station.
For the 700 people.
Yes, but in order to reduce that time, is you have more clerks and more booths, so that you hand out more ballots, and maybe several people can be voting during that 5 minutes simultaneously. That's how you cut the time. So actually you need more money, because when you buy more booths, that's costs. More clerks, that's cost. Yes.
Did IBC learn from the previous election?
Yes. I think our elections, like I said, it's very legislated, very regulated compared to other countries. It is designed, it is an impossibility to rig. In fact, I tell people it's impossible to rig at the moment. And that's what Kenyans wanted to know. The only problem that we've seen during the by-elections is the use of the police and chiefs to intimidate voters. That's the only method of rigging they can have, is intimidation. But in terms of actual voting, it's become quite efficient. So I'll be one of the people championing that IEBC get the resources to start working on it, because the security of our country depends on it.
And you come from a volatile area, part of Rift Valley and Elgeyo Marakwet to Kana and the bordering and the warring counties. How is it going to be that, when you look at people who are now moving from those particular areas, because every particular year there is that issue of, banditry and cattle rustling, how are you going to make sure as leaders from those particular countries that moving forward is going to be safe for everyone to go cast their ballot and go back home? Because time is up.
I think the banditry has become almost a culture and something that they live with. It's quite controlled at the moment. I think there's been a lot of improvement relating to it. But I've never heard about banditry on election day. That tells you how Kenyans love voting.
Yes.
Because things are quiet during elections. Everybody's focused on making sure they go to go and vote. Anybody who works in Nairobi actually takes the day off and goes to their village if they vote in their village. Kenyans, they love to exercise their right to vote. It is something they're very passionate about. So I've not heard of a situation of interruptions by other happenings in an area, except the 2007 violence, which actually was caused by mismanagement of the election. That is what caused that problem at that time. But if the elections and that's why we learned, if we manage our elections well, people will be calm and okay with it.
The confidence from the Wananchi, because what happened in 2017, people went for an election and then it was not credible, went back to the ballot again. What do you foresee? What do you foresee in 2022? Give me a picture on what you can see.
2022, I think the election will be held. But if Raila Odinga is on the ballot, I know definitely he will contest at the Supreme Court. So we'll go through that motion and let the Supreme Court decide. Because he has never conceded defeat in any election. He's been elected 4 times, gone to the ballot 4 times, presidential. He has never conceded defeat. So if it's him, I know he will contest.
What about other candidates? What about other candidates?
Other candidates?
Yes.
Okay, I'm talking about the one I know that has a history. The others, I can't judge them because they've not done that in the past. I've seen Mudavadi concede. I've seen Kalonzo concede. And so it's one person I know who has not considered. I'm just talking from actual fact and experience.
Exactly.
Yes. It's not judgmental. It's what happened.
Maybe at that point, let's take a break. And when we come back, we still talk about this issue of all right, I'm told, all right, okay, fair enough. So the question is, when you talk about IBC candidate spending caps, we have got the issue. Let me just go to your county, for example. Uasin Gishu is not here. There is
I think I saw it.
Yes. There are different figures for governors.
Gazette notice on my phone.
Governors, we have senators and women representative, and they are segmented in different regions, constituency and spending limit. That is one. There is this part I want to get to. Wasn't sure I don't have that one. All right. If at all this cap is spent and it's effective, what is going to be the repercussion in terms of an economy? Because if we are living in a very tight situation right now economically, how is it going to have an effect in the economy?
No, you see, when the more that is spent during elections, the more economic activity and growth there is, because printers are making money, people who hire out vehicles are making money, small traders who have the sound systems do make money. There's a lot of purchases, so it is actually not bad for the economy, because it means money is changing hands, and so on. Those people who are selling food for people who are on the campaign trail and so on, they also make money. Markets which ordinarily would not have a huge number of people, there's a campaign rally, the hawkers will be able to sell some bananas, sell some soda, and so on. So it's not bad for the economy. It's actually a good thing. But as to how IEBC came up with the figures, I think they're the only ones who can
answer
explain that.
exactly,
because it's a very in-depth economic assessment, and you'd have to actually speculate and predict what costs of goods will be.
Then somebody would ask that election in Kenya is only meant for people who have money. Because it's expensive. You talk about money in the 48.9 million, talk of billions of shillings. So if you don't have money, you're not going to get an elective post.
My experience has shown me that it's not necessarily that people who have money will always be elected. I think it's got to look good. We know the young man from Meru who was riding a bicycle.
Exactly, yes.
And he was elected overwhelmingly. So it's not necessarily that the more resources, the more you have. I think it's ultimately how you resonate with the people. There are people who, by their own personality, they like to run a flashy campaign. Again, people accept them for that. And know that I like the guy, but he likes to do this, it's fine.
So
a lot of it, it's not got to do that the more money you spend, the more guaranteed that you would be elected. I think the biggest expense for any candidate is your agents. And I think, because that is really, that can affect your election. Because if you don't have agents who are awake and confirming that that the right figures are fed into the result form, that the counting of the ballots is being undertaken properly, then that is where you can lose. So I think the biggest expense is, I would say, is actually the agents. That's what can lose you. But the posters and so on, there are people who are known by face, so they wouldn't require.
All right, so let's take a break for real, and we'll be right back. And we're still having that conversation. Send in your comments, your questions, and we have Honorable Gladys Sholei here just to give us her experience. She's been there in an election board, and she's been in that particular situation before. So we are just getting to understand what's happening, having in mind that just 1 year to the election. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.
Bado sisi wenye nyumba tutoke kwa hii nyumba muingie nyinyi, alafu mtaishi mstarehe mfreshane. Una kazi ya kufanya wewe?
Yaani wewe unajiingilia mahali tu unajiingilia tu. Yaani ningekusia kupiga mapanga ingekuwaje?
Kina nani ni wapenzi?
Wewe na Safari. Sasa tumfuta yupi?
Bado una vita na mimi sio?
Hapana. Wewe hasa una matatizo gani mwanamke wewe?
Kwa nini shemeji? Na akijua kwamba hiyo penalty haiko ndani ya nyumba, hautafurahikia.
Alikuwa anaongea hata sikuwa nasikia. Anasema aje?
You have no right to beg for mercy for her.
I'm willing to take her punishment. Please forgive her.
Please help me to check his real identity and confirm he is your son.
It's a trap.
You see? Promise. I will get revenge.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo nunca.
She told me the truth. That's why I'm here. I want to see my parents.
But don't you think it's time that we call a doctor?
Take her to your apartment in secret and let us know so that the two of us can have a word with her and we can erase her from the face of the earth.
And Ceci has thrown me out, and I'm very sure that she's plotting against you with Ulises Artiaga, because until now she's still bent on separating Ivan from Mariana.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mr. Horacio Espinosa.
No, what?
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
All right, so before you continue that conversation that Victor is having, how about you again take a quick look on the roads right now? Let us just look at the traffic flow on the same route or area which we are focusing on today. Let's try to see if perhaps you can get some alternative routes if told there's any kind of heavy traffic there, and perhaps you can begin from drive-in as you come to the city center. We had looked at what was happening around Garden City Mall there, as well as the Kasarani Mwiki Road, and clearly this is just what I was showing. This is what I was showing you earlier, looking at how the area is looking like, clearly showing that that footbridge which was installed around that area is serving its purpose well, because that was the number 2 reason of why it was installed. Of course, first was to reduce on the number of death cases around the area, and 2, to reduce on the heavy kind of traffic. Just as I explained to you earlier, the concept is still the same. Away from that area, coming to the city center via a drive-in area, still not that bad. I mean, given the kind of roadworks around or along this area, especially in this morning hour, we'd expect to see heavy kind of traffic, but clearly that is not quite the case there. Away from Garden City, still coming through to areas around drive-in, not so bad, moving at a very safe pace, and the beauty is that this is actually on both lanes. So as you leave Thika Super Highway coming to the city center, and also as you leave CBD heading all the way to Thika Road, around estates of that in that side, as well as also outside or the outskirts of Nairobi, around Kenya Utalii College, one of those areas where in the morning hour, especially at this time, we'd experience every kind of traffic, but clearly as of now, also that is not the case. And perhaps what I'd say is, if at all you're coming to CBD, this is again is the best time for you to do that. If you're coming from those areas which I just mentioned earlier, again, this is clearly the best time for you to leave your houses. If at all you're also going to perhaps different kind of activities around this area, along Thika Road, this is still the best time for you to do that. If you're leaving city center, also not that bad. bad, but slightly around areas of this is Muthaiga, one of those areas where oftentimes along Thika Super Highway in the early morning hour or even evening hour, this is one of those areas where heavy traffic really doesn't miss. And also, interestingly, traffic police are always stationed perhaps early morning hour to try and see how best they can control traffic. But this is just how it is looking like this morning. So if at all you're coming from Thika Road, around this area is where you'll have to make do with this traffic. But if you're not yet past that area, you can clearly use the Outer Ring Road as your alternative route there if you're not yet past the Muthaiga suit. So let's just quickly look at how Outer Ring is looking like for our viewers perhaps coming from these areas and do not want to make the traffic around Muthaiga. This is one of those routes you can use as an alternative where you get to branch through the Allsops or from the Allsops roundabout. Coming with the same stretch there. This is actually a long Outer Ring Road and the road is looking so good this morning. No traffic at all, just on some sections where it's beginning to slightly build up, but altogether manageable kind of traffic. So if you're using Outer Ring Road or if you intend to use this as your alternative route, you come with the same stretch. Where you get to branch off is along Juja Road there on that particular stretch there, coming with the same route as you enjoy through the Pangani intersection there. So that is one of those areas you can use as an alternative route, and through those roads that I've mentioned is where you can actually branch off this morning. But if you are past the Muthaiga roundabout, then perhaps you just have to make do with that traffic, because that continues up until the Pangani intersection there next to Pangani Girls. And that is how it's looking like this morning in terms of traffic. Of course, you're still trying to focus on how these various 4 footbridges have impacted or affected traffic altogether along Thika Super Highway. If you get a chance to have the next link, you might perhaps look at other various alternative routes. But as of now, at just 50 minutes past 8, this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic.
All right. So we'll continue the conversation here. Thank you, Doreen, for that. Okay. With me is I still have Honorable Gladys Sholei in studio. We're just talking about matters IEBC. I know most people are now asking themselves, so how is it going to be? All right. So, Mheshimiwa, somebody is asking a question, matters requirements, and the issue of academic credential is putting up so many people, probably aspirants, in a very tight spot. From your own experience, how should it be?
I'm one of the people who are against the degree requirement.
Right.
And my disagreement with it is based on facts. So far, only 495,000 Kenyans have degrees out of 50 million Kenyans.
495,000. Right.
And this is against 26 million projected people who are eligible to vote and therefore eligible to be candidates.
Yeah.
That's a very small percentage. That means you're saying that 3.5% of Kenyans can actually vie for political leadership, over 97% or 96 point something percent of Kenyans who are the ones they are going to serve. I think it's unfair. That requirement is only necessary or can be justified in a country where everybody is capable of getting university education for free, or at least with support of government. Countries like the US don't even require it, yet everyone is guaranteed, an American citizen is guaranteed of getting a student loan to be able to get into any university, both private and public. So I think it's unfair to do that in Kenya. We as Kenyans, first of all, should make university education available to everybody, such that you can demand it as a requirement. You cannot demand it as a requirement when it's not necessary. The whole thing of specialization is when you're doing specialized work. For example, a brain surgeon or whatever, then you need to have a medical degree. But in terms of political leadership, you're the representative of the people, which means the demographics in parliament should be similar to the demographics you get in a market. In a market, you'll get a degree holder, a non-degree holder, or whatever. The same demographics when you go to a church. It should be the same face you see out there. So if you tell me that you should only have degree holders being in political leadership, then that is not really what is on the ground. Not everybody has a degree. I know that the proponents of the degree requirement were saying that it will improve the quality of debate and so on. But as we speak, 60% of parliamentarians have degrees.
Yeah.
So it's not the degree that is affecting the
quality of the debate.
The quality of the debate.
Right.
I think leadership depends on your passion, your focus, and your selflessness to work for your people. And a visionary leader is what is most important. It is not got to do with your degree. I know many parliamentarians who are highly educated, but they don't participate in debate and are not involved. So it's got to do with you, your personality as a leader, as opposed to your degrees. I know leaders who don't have a university education, but they are very good leaders. I've seen some of them in Parliament. One of them is Leshomo, the MP for Samburu. She understands the issues of her people. She's able to contribute in debate and say, no, this will affect my people negatively and so on. That is what we want. They are the voice of the people. In Parliament or in the county assemblies, we have the professionals, the technicians, who actually give us the presentation and and give us the policy in a professional manner, and then based on that, you are able to make an assessment: is this good for my people or not? Your job is to be the voice, the voice of the people.
Should there be, in terms of county assemblies, there was that proposal of, when you go to the county assemblies, there should be that requirement, and we go to the National Assembly or the Senate upwards, there should be also a requirement. What is your take on that?
I think the law that existed was just to make sure, it was saying that you must have a degree for whether it's county assembly, MP, senator, or whatever, or governor. At the moment, there is a degree requirement for the governors and there's a degree requirement for the president. That's okay. At least that's a limited number. And also a governor is a CEO, actually. They're an accounting officer. As a member of parliament, I'm not an accounting officer. So I understand the degree requirement because the job requires it for the governors and the presidency. But for the rest, I think it will be unfair. It will lock out a lot of visionary leaders. And also, think about it. We have built so many technical vocational training colleges all over the country. There are people who are studying to be nurses. They get certificates, diplomas. We have the people who manage our X-ray machines, MRI machines in the hospitals where we go. Are you telling me that person is not capable of being a leader? The midwives, most of the midwives who's helped deliver all of us, are you telling me that they can deliver me, but they can't represent me as a leader? So you're locking out so many people. Are you telling me a pilot who doesn't have a degree and is carrying your life up there 30 feet above the ground is not... He's good enough to fly you all those lives, but he's not good enough to be a member of parliament or an MCA? So it's a preposterous requirement. It's not required in the US, it's not required in the UK. So who are we as Kenyans? You know, that's why Kenyans, we overshoot ourselves.
You've just reminded me, a few months ago, there was a story where a gentleman flew in Kenya for 8 years, and he didn't go to any aviation school. He just learned the ropes from I don't know where, but he's been flying.
Maybe just maybe when they use them in farms to spray the farms and so on. So people learn. A lot of the farmers actually in these big ranches, they don't necessarily go to aviation school. So it doesn't make sense. I know that Senator Murkomen is in parliament, is trying to amend the law at the Senate. I know it's going to come before the National Assembly, and I think it will have sufficient support, considering that it will lock out as 96% of Kenyans. That's unfair. Because you're now creating an elitist class.
Absolutely.
And not everybody has the opportunity to go to university. I know many brilliant people who should have gone to university, but they didn't have the resources. I know a lot of brilliant people who couldn't get to secondary school. To this day, I have children, everyday parents coming to me struggling to ensure that their children can finish secondary education. So now we want to talk about university. It's an extremely elitist process
and decision.
It doesn't. If everybody was guaranteed of university education, then we can demand it. But nobody's guaranteed of even secondary or even primary education. You have our children learning under trees. We have children who don't have desks. We have schools that don't have books. There are children who are starving, who can't make a meal a day and are too weak to go to school. we cannot be making demands of things that we cannot provide. Yes.
All right. Okay. Wesh, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka yesterday unveiled his presidential bid yesterday, the Nav Center, the Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation. Probably, Director, if you can have that story.
And my bid, ladies and gentlemen, will be grounded on the following pillars. Number 1, economic recovery and development. Number 2, the green gold, which is agriculture. Number 3, zero tolerance on corruption. And to demonstrate how serious we are, we have the anti-corruption czar in our midst today, our brother John Githongo, who has volunteered to give us all the inputs that we require, and so we can be able to lead from the front. Number 4, sustainable debt management. And number 5, youth and women empowerment.
Kalonzo rubbishing the bottom-up economic approach, the anchor to Deputy President William Ruto's march to the ballot.
Dear Kenyans, make no mistake, there are no quick fixes to our current economic dilemma. No instant coffee solutions. However, I want to assure you that fixing our economic meltdown is doable and is achievable. While doing this, what I hear Kenyans to be saying is that they want a government that protects them from harm, not one that hurts them. We cannot elect leaders who seek to exploit our fears for their own political survival. How else will one propose a meaningless economic model that doesn't reflect his life journey? We must properly diagnose what ails Kenya and develop blueprints that work.
All right, so it's all system go, and politicians, starting with Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, who unveiled his command center yesterday. And if you look at the people who attended, only Honorable Musalia Mudavadi attended that function. But report has it that he left in a half. He didn't go until the end of that function. What do you make of that?
I think I can just speak to what Honorable Kalonzo has said.
Yes.
So actually, he's the first person to officially launch his presidential bid.
Right.
Nobody else has.
Yes.
Not even William Ruto has not
Not
launched
even
it
that.
officially. Yes. But what I found fascinating is that the things he has spoken about, economic recovery plan.
Yes.
That's exactly what the Hustler movement has been talking about.
Right.
I know that the last time Kalonzo Musyoka spoke, he said in, and I think I can quote him, he said it in somewhere in Machakos or his area, where he said that his main reason for running for the presidency is to stop William Ruto. Those were his words.
His main agenda.
So, yes, his main agenda.
Yes.
So it's quite amusing now that he has changed his agenda to speak about the economy. Remember, UDA and the Hustler movement has focused solely not on tribal kingpins, not on alliances, but on a party that welcomes all Kenyans, but on a party that is keen to work on the economy so that every Kenyan can be able to have a living wage or at least can be able to have an economic activity to feed their families, what we call pesa mfukoni. So I'm glad that the conversation has changed. I think UDA, William Ruto and the Hustler movement has brought everyone to start talking about the economy. I know I did hear Mudavadi at some point also starting to talk about the economy, and that is great. They are talking about agriculture. That is what a bottom-up approach is. When you talk about youth, women, and so on, again, that is the bottom-up approach.
Yeah.
But the sad part is he mentioned that the bottom-up approach is a meaningless economic model. That just reveals that he's not well-read and that he doesn't keep up with current affairs and world affairs. Anybody who reads the Harvard Business Review or economic publications, you will see that it has been confirmed worldwide that the trickle-down economic model does not work and has failed. Every country is moving to the bottom-up economic model. It's only to discuss the details of how to get it done.
Yeah.
Joe Biden tweeted, I think 2 weeks ago, about the bottom-up economic model, which is implementing in America. The Prime Minister of India is implementing it. Botswana is implementing it. If you read Botswana's latest economic recovery plan, it talks about that. So it is actually a worldwide movement.
Yeah.
It's being discussed in the top business schools in the world. It started with Columbia University.
Yeah.
By a professor, I can't pronounce his name, it starts with S. Yeah, but it's been something that has been studied, and actually worldwide, it is now, it's just that it's implemented differently in different countries. But it's an economic model that is studied and is actually part of business school today. And so you would ask anyone to listen to TED Talks and so on. The discussions are ongoing. But the positive part is at least we are no longer talking about tribal alliances. We are not talking about economic recovery. You may have seen that yesterday and the day before, the Deputy President has held the third economic forum. He had, the third one was the Nyanza County's economic forum, where he's telling them, for this economic model, what is it that can be done in your region? Because remember, every region, it will be implemented differently, but it's still the same economic model. The one has been held for central Kenya counties. They also held one for the coast. The coast region has had economic forums with the Deputy President and the UDA movement. There is going to be one for Western Kenyan counties. And that is the conversation we want to talk about. Let's stop talking tribe in Kenya and let's talk, because everybody, the common denominator is everybody wants to improve their livelihood. But if you talk to a Mama Boga who normally has capital of 200 shillings, she will tell you, if I had 2,000 shillings, I would be able to make 500 shillings a day, or I'll be able to make so much a day. Everybody wants to improve their lives.
The question would be, if we talk about devolution, is devolution part of economic, bottom-up economy model?
You remember devolution, we have only devolved agriculture and we have devolved health.
Yes.
That is what has been devolved. It's taking the services closer to the people.
Yeah.
So devolution is in terms of operations, government operations and service delivery has been taken to the bottom. So yes, it is a bottom-up approach, but for service delivery. Now we are looking about the economy, because the economy is the policies of the country that or the national policies that actually define how economic growth will be spurred. I'll give you an example. We were given an example of so it's about making a deliberate decision to put investment and money in certain areas to spur economic growth from the bottom up. In the past, in the trickle-down economy, it was assumed that if tax breaks, if incentives were given to big companies, then those big companies would make money, they would employ more people, and then the effect would go down to the bottom of the pyramid where the majority of the people are. But it has been found that you are hoping for a spillover in that system. And it may happen, may not happen. But if you make deliberate choices, a good example is, and this is just an example, our expressway. The expressway that is being built, the double-decker one, 80 billion shillings spent on that. It's created 3,000 jobs. Had you done low tar roads across the country, you'd have created 400,000 jobs. Those 400,000 people will pay taxes. It will go back to the public coffers. We'll be able to pay our debt, and we'll be able to have economic growth, and everyone will be able to have a decent living. So it is skewing the same amount of money we have, but put it in the right places that creates more jobs. If you read even the BBI report, on the, I think both page 67 and 62, of the BBI report, it talks about growing the economy from grassroots level. It also talks about that the biggest problem facing Kenyan youth is unemployment. So it makes sense that you must say, what do? We need to put our investment where the economy will grow. We know that the biggest amounts of money that we use in our foreign exchange is for petroleum and edible oils. You know, edible oil, cooking oil? Which again, so we are losing money as a country because we are importing something we can produce. Suppose we put resources and give access to inputs and money lent at affordable rates to farmers in Western Kenya, they can produce edible oils. It's fertile. We've got the labor and we've got the land. All they don't have is the inputs and the support, the professional support by extension officers to tell them how to grow it and so on, and then put up the factory. we'll be able to spark. That is what means, that's what bottom-up approach means, because you are going down to where the majority of people are for them to be able to earn a living. If you look at, I always give the example of Rivertex in Eldoret. Rivertex has been built to the tune of maybe 4 billion shillings by government. The government has put state-of-the-art machines. They are producing very good fabric, and we appreciate that. But unfortunately, they import the cotton. So how is it benefiting the majority of the people at the bottom? What then we should do, support Rivertex to become a state-of-the-art factory, but take a similar amount of resources to people on the belts, the farming belts that can grow cotton. And give them inputs. Encourage, if you have an acre, grow cotton, 2 acres, grow cotton. All the small holders, aggregate it, collect it at one collection point, let Rivertex buy it. What will happen? Not only will Rivertex grow and be able to even export fabric and give us foreign exchange and to pay taxes, but it will also give all these people who are having economic activity to be able to earn a living. So it's a possibility. It's just changing the policies, using the same amount of resources. We are not getting new resources from anywhere. Yes.
All right. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we have got Honorable Seth Panyaku, who's just walked in. We also just give him time to just to give us a feel of what he's feeling, and then before we wind up this particular discussion. So let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Kupata Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial star 811 star 817 hash. Mwenyezi Mungu ni mwamba wangu, ngome yangu na mkombozi wangu. Mungu wangu, mwamba wangu ninayemkimbilia ninapohitaji kuwa salama. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial star 811 star 817 hash. Star 811 star 817 hash.
Bado sisi wenye nyumba tutoke kwa hii nyumba muingie nyinyi, alafu mtaishi amstarehe mfreshane. Una kazi ya kufanya wewe?
Yaani wewe unajiingilia mahali tu, unajiingilia tu. Je, ningekushika kupiga mapanga ingekuwaje?
Kina nani ni wapenzi?
Wewe na Safari. Sasa tumfuta yupi?
Bado una vita na mimi sio?
Hapana. Wewe hasa una matatizo gani mwanamke wewe?
Kwa nini shemeji?
Na akijua kwamba hiyo penalty haiko panda na nyumba, hautafurahikia.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo nunca.
She told me the truth. That's why I'm here. I want to see my parents.
But don't you think it's time that we call a doctor?
Take her to your apartment in secret and let us know, so that the two of us can have a word with her, and we can erase her from the face of the earth.
And Ceci has thrown me out, and I'm very sure that she's plotting against you with Ulysses Artiaga, because until now she's still bent on separating Ivan from Mariana.
I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mr. Horacio Espinosa.
No, what?
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
All right, time for our last traffic click this Tuesday. And let me just run you through why you are looking at what you're seeing behind your screens right now. This is an image of the footbridge around Survey area. So this has actually been why we are focusing on this specific route, given that this is the one of those 4 footbridges that had been designated along various areas. This is one among them. There's one at Garden City, one at Witithia, and then there's one at Mangu. The 4 of them add to the already 18 existing footbridges along Thika Super Highway. And the major reason as to why these footbridges were installed first was reducing the number of death cases, just like how it is usual as to why we have footbridges on most of major roads, and also 2, to reduce on the traffic flow along this route, given the fact that Thika Road is one of those busy roads in terms of businesses, both large scale as well as small scale, companies, a number of them, schools also quite a number of them, not forgetting the number of estates, numerous as well, and the fact that also the road serves the vehicles that come from the outskirts of Nairobi, various counties like Isiolo, Wajir, Kiambu, Thika, and so many of them as well. So clearly this is one of those busy roads, and first of all, that is actually even why it was expanded to making it a highway. And like I mentioned, part of the major reasons why also these footbridges were installed is because a number of residents, especially those around areas of Witithia, had complained of the number of death cases that were recorded annually because of the accidents that were happening around that area, and that was because of a lack of a footbridge. Because when you lack this on most of major roads as well as highways, then it simply means that pedestrians have to use the major roads or the highways to cross over. But when you have this, then at least you have clear places, clear lanes, clear areas for pedestrians as well as for vehicles. Also, the other reason as to why we were focusing on this specific route this morning, aside from just trying to check the traffic flow because of the bridges that were installed and already opened up to the public, was also because of the BRT, which is taking shape. And slowly by slowly, I shall be explaining to you the importance of this bus rapid transit system, why this model is being adopted, and how it's expected to change the form of various roads, key among them being this one in specific. And also the other reason was because of the construction around Kasarani Mwiki Road, which was one of those roads that was in a very poor state. And again, it also took the cry of residents along that area to just complain of how the road was in a very bad state, and especially when it rained, quite impassable. So those were the major reasons why we are focusing on this route, and also just because of all these activities, try to check the traffic flow. And clearly from just looking at what is happening around this bridge, just a bit different from what you'll see on other various footbridges in terms of the lighting also being in place. This was one of the key features that was very instrumental on actually all of these 4 footbridges that were added in addition of the already 18 existing ones. And the reason was to reduce on mugging cases, like I had mentioned to you earlier, especially in the early morning hour as well as the evening hour, given the fact that also that was one of the things that were being reported along this area. So clearly this is why we're checking on this route, try to see how all this ongoing road works is affecting traffic flow, and also the already completed ones, how is it impacting traffic altogether. So perhaps we can just quickly check from this particular area. This is around the Muthaiga roundabout. It is just the same, actually not the same, it has changed right this very minute. This is how the area is looking like, at least moving quite fast, in as much as in some specific sections or areas there's a bit of a gridlock. And again, that is just specific to that lane that is coming to the city center, which is again quite expected. On the other section, moving at a very swift pace. So if at all you're coming from city center, a good time for you to head over to Thika Super Highway. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this still remains a key road in terms of focus because of that bus rapid transit system that remains the latest project being undertaken along Thika Super Highway.
Perfect. All right. So that is the traffic update. And by the way, somebody saying that Doreen should be our traffic cop, and maybe the traffic police officers in Nairobi should consider hiring Doreen to help them do the traffic update that you're doing better than comment reserved. All right. Let's flip the discussion a bit and let's talk about politics and health. Right. We can do this. All right, in the studio we have got Honorable Seth Panyako to help us talk about politics and health and how we should know about it. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the program. Karibu.
Thank you very much.
First of all, are you vaccinated?
Due to patient privacy, I'll skip the question.
No, you just have to tell us. We start from okay, the oath of secrecy.
Yes.
Okay. So it's all over, and we know a lot has been happening in the country. You know, the COVID is here, and politics also here. How are we contending from the professional side of view?
You know, the problem we have in this country is that
yes.
The professionals, in terms of stakeholders, are basically left out of all the plans that are put in place by the government.
Yes.
The government still believes on this thing of top-bottom approach on all the issues. And that's why you see now we have a different narrative where we are saying bottom-up approach in terms of addressing issues affecting Kenyans. And even as I sit here today, I'm a key person in terms of healthcare system in this country, but I do not know the measure that the government has put in place. For example, when it has said now from yesterday, our public transport system will now have to carry passengers to capacity. If you asked me what measures has the government put in place, I'll not be able to tell you. So we go in outside your houses and you pump into decisions made by the government, not knowing what the government has done that is so unique when you have Delta variant today ravaging the country, and we are actually doing so badly today. I can confidently tell you that the numbers that we are being given by the Minister of Health are not the true picture of what's happening in the country.
Really?
Because our testing ability in Kenya is crippled. We are not able to test everybody that we come across. For example, what is the policy on testing? They only test people who go to hospital. The issue of even tracing ended long time ago. So when we are told that the rate of infection is 15% today, I still doubt those figures, because we don't have a testing policy in Kenya where you are told that for us to know the prevalence of this infection in this country, we need maybe to go to a place and pick people randomly and test them. That's not happening. They are testing people who go to hospital, then they give us those numbers. So we have that problem in the country. Those who hold the wings of the government and who decides what happens to not matter what stakeholders have to say, or even the common mwananchi. So we sit and wait for them to make decisions.
You are not consulted, because now Matatu resumed full capacity yesterday.
We're not consulted. Who will consult us in the first place? We have a ministry that has never made this union. We have a CS that has never made this union. Even when we write letters that we want to have a meeting with you, even just a courtesy call meeting, Kakwe will not allow. And so we have a CS that I don't know whether he does not understand the meaning and the role that nurses play in this country or not. So we've reached a place where we are saying, now let us look at what affects us as workers. As long as we can be able to fight, because we are not living in this country, we are barely surviving. I'm saying we are barely surviving because how will I continue to fight and say that before we open up the country to have full matatus in place, have this in place, when we ourselves, we are not accessing healthcare services? We don't have comprehensive medical schemes, and where they exist, for example, money is not remitted to NHIF, so that when you go to with the NHIF card to a hospital, you are turned back. You are told the NHIF does not pay. We are not going to allow you. You can't be treated on NHIF. So you have to go down your pocket, sell your cows, sell your land, and then you go for treatment. And yet you are a public servant whose money was taken from the payslip, which was called medical allowance, to come up with comprehensive medical insurance for public servants. So we have serious problems in this country in terms of involving of stakeholders and the public.
You've raised a very worrying point there, that the kind of information that is there is not the real reflection of what the government is telling people.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. This Delta variant thing is really causing havoc in this country. People are dying. People are dying in the village.
What is the situation like?
It's so bad. Like where I come from, people are dying every day. And when you ask, what has killed this person? They say, we don't know, he just died. Later on, when they take samples, we hear it was COVID-19. So those who are dying and they're not going to hospital for post-mortem, and you know, most of people in the village, you die like today, and they say, the government is saying, we bury you tomorrow, pereka kwa moshari hapa, makama ni wapi karibu, after 2-3 days, they do the harambe, and then they bury you. So it is not really giving us the true picture, but that may not even be what is of great importance for us. Knowing the numbers, the exact numbers may not be important. What's important is the action, for example, that has been taken, that now vaccination has been opened up to all Kenyans, so that they can be vaccinated. I I think that's a step in the right direction.
Yes.
All Kenyans have the right to be protected against an ailment, because even if you protect those health workers in hospitals and you're not protecting the larger population, you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
So that's a step in the right direction, and we need more centers of vaccination to be opened up. But you see, the problem we have in this country is that investment priorities are skewed.
Yeah.
They do not know where to put their money. Why will you put billions of shillings, for example, on a useless project like BBI, instead of taking that billion and buying vaccines enough to vaccinate all Kenyans? Today we should be talking about the government has put in place the measures to ensure that every Kenya will be vaccinated. This amount of money has been set aside. But when it comes to priorities, it is skewed, because maybe when you buy a vaccine, there's no kickback from there. So they want to do projects where there's kickbacks. We need serious government officials who are really going to take care of the interests of the Kenyans and not looking at their personal interests. Yeah.
The question is, do we have enough vaccines in the country?
Of course, we don't have enough vaccines in the country. We do not have. And even the few that were in the country had a lot of mischief, information that was misleading, and many people do not want to take the vaccines. For example, up to now, we have not been clearly told if you are infected. Do you have herd immunity or do you need another vaccination?
Yeah.
From where I sit, I believe if you are infected, you don't need to be vaccinated. But these are things which have not been covered. Because what's that vaccine? What you call attenuated infection. Is an infection, a real infection, but it has been reduced to the levels that it cannot cause full-blown infection when you are inoculated with it. So when you are inoculated with that vaccine, it triggers the system to produce antibodies that will fight against that infection when you get it.
Yeah.
So if you got a full-blown infection like myself, do you still need a vaccination? Those are the questions that have not been answered up to today. And we see many of the health workers who have been infected and they know how the immune system functions. They are reluctant to take those the vaccination. Very much reluctant.
Have you initiated a conversation surrounding all these issues that are trying to raise?
Where is the platform?
But you can get a platform.
We are talking with you here. This is the only platform I have to engage government if somebody within government is somewhere listening. But the government has not found it necessary to engage us.
Mheshimiwa, I'm so sure you can reach the CES just direct.
No, the ministry is out of bounds for nurses. It is not, a ministry is not open for nurses. We don't have stake in that Ministry of Health. In fact, what is there today is that we are now completely, there is a clandestine clandestine operation by the cartels, the ministry, to remove the Department of Nursing Services from the Health Act. So are being kicked out of the ministry completely.
Why?
They have dismantled the nursing department.
Why?
You see, nursing department, nurses happens to be, maybe, I'm sorry to say that, but I'm a nurse. I'm not being prejudiced to any other profession.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we looked at people who don't know how to steal. And if you don't know how to steal, you are not needed where stealing takes place. And that's why they're dismantling the nursing department from Afya House. We are nowhere completely. There is no any healthcare system that has succeeded in the world where a nurse does not sit on the table of policy making. When you go to America, for example, one of the best healthcare systems in the world, America runs the best armed forces health system in the world. Who is the Surgeon General? Because that's now like the Director General.
Yes.
It's a nurse. When the former president for United States came in power, the famous one, he appointed a Surgeon General.
Are you talking about Barack Obama?
No.
Clinton?
The one who has just left office for Biden to come in. No, the one Biden took off from Trump.
Yes.
Trump appointed a nurse as a Surgeon General. So the head of the healthcare system in America today is a nurse. I developed a first class, a superpower country like that one, taking a nurse and putting him at the helm of the healthcare system in Kenya. And we have a third world country like this. You have some fool sitting in Afya House trying to remove the entire profession from Afya House. Then you can see where we're headed to. All the problems we have in the Kenyan healthcare system go for those who are managing healthcare system. It's not nurses.
Yeah.
Those managers are the ones who have given us all these problems. They are the ones who have surrounded the minister. They don't want Panyako to talk to the ministry because they know Panyako is a straight-talking person. He does not fear anything. And he will tell the ministry and whoever dares to hear the truth on what should happen. That is why you hear whenever, I have always said this thing before, that when you hear the numbers on corruption in Kenya being listed in Kenya by EACC, you will hear that the most corrupt department is the police. The second one is health.
Yeah.
If health is not number 2, it's number 1. But have you ever seen anyone being prosecuted in the Ministry of Health for corruption? What happens in the Ministry of Health is a royal haste, where those who hold the wings of the power in this country are the ones stealing from the dying Kenyans. It is so bad when you go to a hospital, there's no medicine. Like you are supposed to go to theater, there's no anesthetic machine, it's not functioning, there is no nurse, there's no anesthetist, and if the personnel is there is no medicine to take you to theater, and a mother dies waiting to go to theater, or loses a baby waiting to go to theater. When you ask these people, a mother has died waiting to go to theater, they ask, why did she not go to theater? Because for themselves, they have never gone to those public hospitals. They go to Nairobi Hospital. Yeah. If things go bad, they run to South Africa, they go to USA, Britain. But the common mananji down there who need these services, who's not able to access this private clinic, leave alone hospitals, private clinics in the village cannot access what is available.
That reminds me of a medic who allegedly committed suicide because of the suicide note said that she regretted of the working condition she had. You remember the lady who committed suicide?
Yeah, I remember very well. It was in Central.
Okay. Where do we see ourselves on a nation? Because right now, as it is, elections are here. Campaigns are going to go full-blown. And as a member of parliament, every politician is going to hit the ground running. No more. The number is projected to be 10 million by end of December. But you expect Kenyans to go out there and start campaigning. What are you seeing? Are you seeing that dark moment for this country in the next 1 year or so?
I have never wanted to be a prophet of doom. By the way things stand, the truth is that if I were charged with the responsibility of making decisions, I will ensure that before elections, at least 80% of Kenyans are vaccinated.
Where are we right now in terms of percentage?
We are nowhere. I saw the 4.something%. We have vaccinated about 1 million Kenyans, 1.6 million, out of around 50 million. That's a very small percentage. So that will be my focus as an administrator in this country. And if I go by the lines I saw when now it went to the public, and the public are willing to take this vaccination, I will now invest in bringing in the vaccines and ensure that we vaccinate, we go into mass vaccination. We even go to homes. We even said this thing in the estates and people get vaccinated.
Like polio, they will usually do it.
Like even I'll put a law and say no one will be allowed now after, like if we have enough vaccines, because you can't also put restrictions on people when you don't have enough vaccines. But if we had enough vaccines, I'll tell you, from January, you will not be allowed to enter a supermarket in the country if you don't have a vaccination card. But how do you come up with that kind of regulation when you do not have enough vaccines? You see?
Yeah.
You must have fast enough vaccines, because if you say like that, I can assure you the vaccines which are in the country today will be finished in 1 day. And there will be more vaccines. So the country is lethargic, as somebody says, that they are waiting for free donation. Here we are a country that we are suffering, we are dying, and yet our leaders are sitting down there, keeping money for campaigns and BBI, waiting for us to be given free donations.
But somebody would argue that the supply chain is squeezed. That's why we don't have enough vaccine in the country. Many countries depend from the suppliers.
No, if many countries depend for suppliers, South Africa is now manufacturing their own vaccines. Kenya was a key proponent in terms of in the research on AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
Why have we not brought the production of AstraZeneca in Kenya? We are busy politicking. We are busy fighting people, chasing each other on politics. We have, as I said earlier, we have skewed priorities. We don't know what the country needs, and that's why we are saying we in the UDA we want bottom-top approach.
Yeah.
We want that Mwananchi on the ground. We want that Wanjala, that Wafula, that Bahati in Mombasa or wherever you are, to suggest something to the government that this is what I want to see happen in this village. And at least 1 or 2 villagers can say after the budget has been read that actually our suggestions are being implemented. We don't want a situation where things are trickled down. You are up here and you decide what to do on the people on the ground. Let the people be part of the economic planning.
Yeah.
So they are able to evaluate. They say we wanted this has been brought. Has it been implemented? So today if you ask Kenyans, many of them will tell you we want to be vaccinated. But where are those vaccines? Where are they? If you say that the supply is not okay, where are our priorities? By the time Kenya was participating in research on AstraZeneca, it should have put measures in place to have our own production here. I heard that somebody called Aidin was putting up a manufacturing plant for vaccines in Uganda, and he was deported at night in this country. They deported Miguna. This country is, you see, if it is true that this man was going to put up a vaccine factory in a company in Uganda to produce vaccines, what I would have done if the person in power is to get in touch with the Ugandan government and find out if that is true. And if it's not true, let this person face the full force of law. So the problem we have in this country is politics. Politics. Everything is politicized. They don't care what happens to the Kenyan people. Like today as we are talking, IFMIS was blocked on 15th of June. Just before the president went to Europe. And up to now, it has not been opened. County governments barely have no money to function. So when you say that you devolved services to the people, I saw Honorable Boss Sholei saying that devolution was meant services to the people. That is what it's supposed to have been. But now, are people getting services when you block a system of transferring funds to the county government for more than 1 month? Definitely, they are not getting the funds. Today, how are counties paying salaries? Counties have made arrangements with the banks. They get money from the banks, then they pay net salary. Third-party deductions are not going. And today, as we are sitting, health workers, public servants across the county governments are now crying. They want to go on strike, not because they want salary increment, but because they want what has been deducted from their salaries to go where it's supposed to go. You can imagine how painful it is. You have a premium. Because some health workers have decided, some public servants have decided to go a long way in securing themselves, even health. You have a premium where you are taking care of your family. For example, you have large family that is maybe not covered by maybe the government health policy, like insurance. Then you have a private premium with a private company. You are deducted money to go to that company. It doesn't go. When your family goes with a card to a hospital to be treated, you are told this card is empty. There's no money. Money has not been given. When you go the NHIF card today for treatment in the hospital, you are turned back. You are told, no, NHIF is not giving us money.
But the people are supposed to take some of these legislations to the floor of the House so that, the country cannot make some arbitrary decisions unless it's ratified by Parliament.
Unfortunately, I've told you that this country is not, everything is not right in this country. It's true, I was elected as senator for Kakamega, but I don't sit in the Senate. I'm the one who was elected by the people. When you hear people talk in Kakamega, they speak so bitterly. All 12 sub-counties, no one beat me. But do I sit in the Senate? One of the visions I had as a health worker was to work on a health act, to amend the health act. At that time, there was no health act. Is to work on a health act that will provide free and compulsory healthcare services to all Kenyans. Basic. Basic. Free. If you walk in any hospital, you must get that healthcare service. 2 is to find out how this healthcare service was going to be funded. One of the ways was through NHIF. Another, for example, look at the corruption in healthcare system. Look at a private hospital. It charges a bed just the way a public hospital charges. Like when you go to Aga Khan, the charge on the bed is the same like the one for Kenyatta. But you see, when you go, for example, to Kenyatta, you'll find out that workers are paid by the government. But when you go to Nairobi hospital, they are paid by the hospital. So when you try to look at these things, you try to find out, now, this money being made by the public hospitals through cost sharing. Oh, they will tell you we buy medicine, we do what. But there is a lot of money being generated there, which is not, some of it will be recouped into hiring even more health workers. That's not happening. So this country, I'm very disturbed. Very disturbed. Kenyans are not getting services. In fact, I was just saying yesterday, if the president has blocked IFMIS system because the government is broke, let him come and tell Kenyans that the government is broke, we do not have money, we must reopen a discussion on whether devolution has worked or not. If it has worked, where has it succeeded? Where has it failed? What can we do with the failures? So that you don't devolve 85% of Kenyan workers take them to the county governments, and they go and suffer. For example, we used to have mortgage, where you will pay 3% interest on the loan you are given to build a house and to do anything, or a loan to buy a car. You pay 3% interest through government. All county public servants do not have access to those facilities. Why? There is no even money to pay salary alone. How will the county government put aside money for mortgage and car loan? So county public servants are suffering in the hands of a rogue government. National government, things are running as usual. Everything is running. So you wonder, why do we have a national government running so smoothly, and they have crippled operation of the county governments, which 99% of the healthcare system in Kenya has been devolved.
Mheshimiwa, let me just ask you one question. Give me maybe 2 or 3 things, good things that this government has done in the health sector.
I'm so disappointed with this government.
Just 2 or 3.
One of the things they did which was good,
right?
Though it was done also again, top, bottom, trickle down system, was the issue of trying to equip hospitals, 2 hospitals in each county to the level of a referral standard. Now, it has not succeeded in 80% of the counties. Why? Because it was not bottom-up approach, where the national government went on the ground, talked with the governors, the National Assembly, and public participation, and then they agreed. For example, in Kakamega, where I come from, in Malava, these are the equipment we want. In Kakamega PGH, these are the equipment we want. Then they tell the national government, according to the capacity we have, these are the equipment we can manage, and we can have them deliver services to our people. But this is what we want to offer. We will want this equipment, but this equipment must be followed by the personnel or the infrastructure. Like when you go to Malava, where I come from, because I come from Malava constituents, you find that those equipment, that managed medical equipment, were taken to Malava, and because there was no even a room where they could be put to operate, they were locked somewhere. They are rusting there up to now, and yet Kakamega County is paying 200 million every year to service those equipment. So that was a step in the right direction, but it was not done properly. It was again trickled down by the national government, because they are also eating from, because how can I be paying 200 million on something that we can buy for less that amount of money? I don't know for how long we are going to spend that money paying these people. So that is one of the things that the national government did that was good. There are so many things that the county governments have done in terms of expansion of infrastructure. They are building hospitals, they are bringing up facilities, but the problem is those hospitals they are building and health centers, they do not have personnel. They do not have equipment. Here in Nairobi, I'll give you an example. You saw the president open up various facilities across the county, which is a very good thing. I applaud the president for that, because people in the slums have suffered for a long time. You have to come from the slum at night, there's no vehicle, you have to go to Kenyatta. Now you have services closer to you. But now, services are not being offered in those hospitals. For example, I'm aware of a chief officer was forcing doctors to operate in a hospital that does not have even a lamp, operation lamp. There's no operation lamp in theater, and someone tell you, go and operate. How will you operate on that patient? So we need to when we come up with project, when government comes up with a project, first of all, they must know that this is public funds. Whether you're borrowing that money or not, we Kenyans are charged with the responsibility of paying that money. So let us actively participate on how our money is being used in this country. But the way things are today is somebody sits somewhere, makes a decision, I want to borrow this amount of money.
All right. So have you raised some of these issues in Parliament?
I'm not a member of Parliament.
Probably through the organization.
I'm not a member.
Have you
been, by the time that doctor was committing suicide, we had been in Parliament and the Senate so many times. In fact, the Senate sat and produced a report that health is not better at the county governments. They require to have the health service commission. But no one has taken any step through legislative action to ensure that the Health Service Commission is fruitful. When they go to BBI, they talk about a statutory body. A statutory body cannot be used to amend the Constitution. So these issues requires leadership that is honest. The Senate is using the woos in the health sector to fight the governors, because most of them want to go and to become governors. But if they were serious that they want to address these issues that wananchi have given them, because by the time the Senate was coming up with that report, they must have heard from stakeholders and wananchi.
Yes.
And the report is excellent, but where is the implementation? BBI is here. We had Health Service Commission in the first BBI. The second BBI, it was not there. When you ask how it was removed, no one tells you. No one opposed Health Service Commission, and yet it was removed. People sat somewhere and said, look here, if we remove the Health Service Commission, if we allow it to go through, wananchi will vote for it. But this country does not belong to politicians. Let the Kenyan people decide whether they want the Health Service Commission or not. Why are they scared? They are scared because they know that health at the county government level is very unpopular. Wananchi ukiwauliza wanasema let us return the health sector to the national government, because that's what the wananchi know. But with the professional, we are saying we want an independent commission to manage the health human resource aspect of healthcare system in this country. Look at it. Only public servants in the counties, including health workers, have not been paid salary, and they are not accessing any other because the third-party deductions have not been effected. July salary has not been paid to all the counties apart from those that have made arrangements. Now the question is, why is it that we don't have a problem with the police? They get their salary on time. The army, the judiciary, the national government in general. Why is it that there is no problem with them getting salary on time? Why is it that their old system that was in place in terms of mortgage is still intact? Why is it that these things have been dismantled at the counties, and earning a salary at the county government level, it is like when you hear that Jesus has spoken to you, it's like umesikia Mungu ameshuka. It is terrible, it's horrible. Life at the county government is miserable. And unless something is going to happen, I can tell you for free, this country is preparing for a revolution. And the revolution is, we must take this country back to the people.
Back to the people.
Yes.
Election is just 1 year away, and we are likely to see politicians crisscrossing this nation. Something that is perhaps giving you some hope that tomorrow is going to be a better day. Do we have some hope as a nation from the clinical perspective?
Professional, in terms of clinical perspective, as you have said, and not political aspect.
Yes.
Is that the hope can only be there if I see practical steps being taken by the government to ensure that every Kenyan is vaccinated before the campaigns begin. If that is not happening, and I'm not seeing it happening now, even if they opened the vaccination yesterday, within 5 days the vaccines will be out of stock. So I have not seen something very, very positive. But the only thing that I'm happy about is that Kenyans have always survived. We have always survived through storms. And I know this COVID-19 is just one of them. And I know we shall walk over them, we shall go through those elections, and we shall survive as a nation. I have a belief in the Kenyan people. I am a Kenyan, and I believe that we are able to survive. We shall survive. But we must, as Kenyans, open up our eyes. Let us see beyond our tribal cocoons and know that what affects a Kalenjin affects a Kikuyu, affects somebody in Mombasa. Today, the prices of all essential commodities have gone up.
For everyone.
Everyone. But when elections come, you hear some fools start talking about mi Kikuyu, mutu wa nyumba, siju mutu wa nyumba, unasikia mtu sema mutu wetu. Huyu mutu wenyu akishaingia ka State House, anakula peke yake huko. Nyinyi na wananchi wa kawaida, you continue borrowing salt from each other. Jioni mnaombana chumvi. Lakini there is no day you'll ever go and uombe chumvi kwa jirani yako kama na wakubwa. Manyumba zao wesi ingia. So what I will tell Kenyans today is that it is a time we embraced ourselves. Let us not embrace the leaders. And these leaders, you know who they are, the culprits. They must be sons of so and so. But you, the common man like Panyako, the son of a jackal seller, you have no stake in this country. That's why we're saying in 2022, we must take over this country to the common mananji, popularly known as the hustler nation.
Okay. My last question is, are the nurses vaccinated, the frontline workers? The government said that part of the vaccination drive was supposed to start the frontline workers, among them the nurses and the medics.
The uptake was not that what was expected. As I've already explained to you, there were a lot of mysteries and stories coming up with that vaccination. But a good number of nurses and other health workers have been vaccinated. Mine is to encourage them to be vaccinated because they are the frontline health workers. Nurses spend more hours than any other health workers with the patient. In fact, we have the patient 24/7. 7.
Yeah.
And when you look at the risk of getting nosocomial infections or COVID-19, we are 30 times more than any other health worker. So it's extremely important that nurses get vaccinated, and as well as all other health workers get vaccinated, because if we vaccinate nurses alone and don't vaccinate others, we work as a unit. A nurse cannot work without a doctor, without a lab person, without a cleaner, you know. These people who clean hospitals are extremely important. They are called today health services assistant. They have now a new approved name. So everybody in the hospital moving forward will be trained. Even the cleaner will be trained. Not like you pick somebody from class 8 or in the village, on the road, then you bring. So everybody will know what you're supposed to do in the hospital. Whether you're a cleaner, a watchman, or what, you will be trained. You have some kind of training.
All right, Mheshimiwa, we are coming to an end, but this is your camera. 2022 is coming across here. Where are we likely to see you? Are we likely to vote for you again?
The truth is that first I want to thank the people of Kakamega for the trust they had in me in voting for me as their senator.
Yes.
What happened is the water under the bridge. In 2022, I can assure them that I'll be on the ballot. The only thing that I cannot assure them is I'll be on the ballot on what post, because the people of Malava have insisted that they want to see their son serve them first before he goes to serve other people outside there. So I'll be having a meeting in my home on 15th next month, where I'll be meeting the people of Malava and the county representative to decide on what seat I'm going to go for.
You see,
Thank you very much.
The good thing about politicians, they say that I consulted my people. My people told me that I should go. All right, thank you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you so much. We'll be talking to Seth Manyako, who is a representative of the Nurses Union here in Kenya. And of course, just talking about issues to do with health. He said, if you've not been vaccinated, if you can get access to that vaccine, go out there and get vaccinated. All right. I hope this is the best place to come to a close to this particular show. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And we hope for the best. And even you as a Kenyan, please do that due diligence and be a good person. If today was not a good day for you, don't lose hope. Tomorrow is going to be a better one. My name is Victor Law on behalf of my co-host and the entire crew. Have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I'm Christine Kuria.